Story 1. My girlfriend just broke up with me because of her work friends. I've been with my girlfriend, Kate, exclusively for 5 years, but on and off for 2 years before. A lot of my firsts happened with her. We went to each other's prom, school dances. We supported each other through tough times. I know Kate is out of my league, and I did all I could to make her feel safe and secure. I'm in love with her and wanted a future with her. I went off to college and got a double major, and Kate went into cosmetology school. We were planning to move in with each other in a few months and talked about marriage and children. For the last couple of months, she kept making comments like, "My coworkers keep asking why I'm with you. Coworker name thinks that you're not in my league. My coworkers want me to hang out with them and meet new people." Every time I would ask Kate what she thought, she always said that she loves me and ignores the comments, tells them to stop, but they kept saying these comments. Made by her coworkers, we always had open communication, talked things out. We haven't had any major issues. We argue over little things such as movies and TV/anime shows, food, etc. We don't hide anything. These comments started when she got the job at that salon. She works with all women. She did not cheat or anything, no emotional affairs, no hiding locations, no secret social media. The other night, we had a nice date, had a good afterdate. When I dropped her off at her place, she commented that she was having doubts about our relationship and wanted to break up. I was super confused and didn't say anything. I slowly walked away. I know it was because of her coworkers, the comments they were making and pushing her to leave me. She said so in a message less than 4 hours later. She started calling me and texting me, saying she was sorry, didn't mean it, that she loves me, and she was stupid for what she said/listening to her new friends. She was gonna quit and find a different job. Stop talking to her friends/coworkers. I have not responded to anyone. I'm conflicted. I love her. I have a ring being made for her, money saved for a house for both of us. We share 85% of our friend groups, the rest are from our jobs. Most of our shared friends have now heard about the breakup and seem just as confused as I am. From some of the messages I have received, it looks like she told them the truth. That her coworkers started to give her insecurities about our relationship, and she stupidly went with it. Her parents tried to reach out to me, asking what happened. We are very close. I've been radio silent. Luckily, I can work remotely. I left my apartment yesterday with my laptop and found a nice place with good internet to still do my job. I feel lost. I don't know what I did. I don't know how to feel. I need advice and suggestions. Update 1. After I posted, my boss sent me an urgent message asking if we could do a Zoom meeting. I accepted. When his picture came up, there were 2 cops behind him. Apparently someone they wouldn't name asked them to do a wellness check on me. They tried my apartment and no one was there, then my work. I was not there. My boss knew I was actively working remotely and called me. I had to explain I was all right, just had my phone off due to drama. I'm also supposed to go to her parents' house tonight. Update 2. We did not have a meeting last night. I rescheduled it for tonight, Friday. Life also has a way of kicking you when you are down. As I was going through my missed calls last night, I got a voicemail saying that my ring would be ready to pick up today, Friday. I also want to apologize for spelling and grammar mistakes. I have not been in my right mind the last few days. Thanks for all the feedback. I will probably update tomorrow or Sunday. Update 3. My 24M girlfriend 23F just broke up with me because of her work friends, February 25th, 2023. My longtime girlfriend just broke up with me because of her coworkers. They thought I'm not good enough and out of her league. Thanks for the messages and comments. It has been an emotionally draining few days. On Friday, I cleared all my voicemails and texts. I ended up with 61 missed calls, 4 from the police, 14 voicemails, and 417 text messages. I sent a generalized message to those who reached out stating that I was okay and safe, as well as need time and space while I work out some personal issues. I picked up the ring since it was already paid for, then put it in the box I made for it. I did go to her parents' house. As soon as I pulled up, Kate opened the door and ran out. She had been crying. When she gave me a hug, I accepted, but it wasn't how I usually hug. She then tried to kiss me. I moved my head and backed up. We went in and sat down. We sat for about 10 minutes not saying anything. She started crying and said she was sorry. I just responded with, okay. I asked her what she told everyone. She said, the truth. I asked her why the cops were called to check on me. She explained that she didn't call them. After our friends found out, they tried reaching out. After none of them had heard from me in over 24 hours, they decided to call in the wellness check. Kate used the word catatonic to describe me while after I walked away. I took a bunch of the questions you guys posted. I asked her why did she break up with me? She didn't give me a straight answer, something about people that were constantly talking bad about me and playing on her insecurities. I asked her why she kept letting that happen and not put a stop to it by setting clear boundaries. She said that she tried and it would work for a day, but would go back the next. I asked if she saw value in me as a person or in our relationship. She said that she doesn't, both. I asked why would she break up over something a random stranger said about me? She said she was sorry and it was a dumb mistake. Paraphrasing. I asked how did they know about me or our relationship and how much did they talked about me. The ladies at the salon overheard Kate talk to some of our friends or customers while she was working about me. Things we did like dates, birthday parties, etc. Did she believe her coworkers were right? She said no. I then followed up with why. She said again she did not know. I asked her if there was someone else. She immediately said no. She has never cheated or been tempted to. She offered me her phone, which I declined. I then told her how I felt. Sorry isn't enough. If she wants this relationship, she needs to prove it to me. I didn't care that her coworkers kept talking about us. It's that you listened. It isn't what they said that hurts, it's the fact that you kept listening to it and repeated it back to me. She didn't try hard enough to stop them. It makes me feel like she had to feel the same way to an extent. That is what hurt and damaged the relationship. That her insecurities are what broke my trust. I will now always think that this might happen again. She will run off at the next opportunity. She asked why I just walked away. I told her that at that moment, just 2 sentences broke me and made me rethink my life up to that point and the future I was planning with us together. I was growing and making moves for that future. She started crying harder. I felt bad. The next thing I did, I regret. I asked her if she knew I was going to propose soon. She said no. I pulled out and showed her the box I made. The box as well. It has 2 buttons, one that says yes and one that says no. It has lights that say, "Will you be my life partner?" I set it on the table and pressed yes. The box opened and she started to cry even harder. The ring has both of our birthstones that form the shape of a completed heart with small diamonds surrounding it. Laser-engraved initials and date of our anniversary. I had it made so that it could be added onto / when we had kids. Her parents were there but were more just to make sure things kept civil. Her mom was crying and her dad looked pissed. But not at me. They both made comments about the ring / box. I told her that the future I had planned was not going to happen anymore. We need to give each other space, at least 3 months of no communication. We need to take a step back and look at who we are and what we want moving forward. After that, we will see where we are at, but this is on my terms and timeline. I can't return the ring, so I don't know what to do with it. Might end up just giving it to her if things don't work out after 3 months or longer. She said that most of our shared friends told her off / blocked her. Her parents are pissed and her little sister hasn't talked to her since the first night. I said, I'm sorry, but actions have consequences. I wished her the best, thanked her parents for all they have done for me and hugged them. I knocked on her little sister's door. I have known her all of her life, thanked her as well, hugged her, and left. I have 4 months left on my lease. I'm thinking of possibly moving when it expires. Tonight, I'm hanging out with a good friend, Mr. Johnny Walker. Just for tonight. I'll get my life going again tomorrow. I don't know if there will be another update or not. Update 4. I would have proposed tonight, February 28th, 2023. Not sure if anyone will read this, but if things didn't go down the way that they did, I would have asked her to be my wife tonight at midnight. Our first date was on Leap Day. We would have been married on Leap Day of next year. Update 5. About 2 months ago, my 24M long-term girlfriend 24F broke up with me because of her work friends. Hello, people have read it. This is a follow-up. I've had many people reach out and ask how I am and for an update. Thank you all for your love and support. To the negative Nancys, sorry if your name is actually Nancy. I hope you stub your toe in the dark one night going to the bathroom. This may be my last update on my situation. I'm going to try to keep things in a timely order. After my last post, I tried getting my life back together. I had limited contact with my ex up until about a week ago. That's jumping ahead though, and did like I said I would do. I did some self-reflection, some therapy sessions with my therapist, who I've been with for a while, and hung out with friends to get me back going right. It was working too. I got to the point where I wasn't always thinking about Kate all the time. I did feel down about things sometimes, but I was really getting myself back. I also threw myself into my work. That my therapist said it was unhealthy, so I cut back to a more normal schedule. From what I learned about Kate during this time, she was also able to get into therapy. She quit her job and left in a way that burned all bridges to her ex-co-workers. Petty Island. She has a different job in a different field and is planning to go back to school in the spring. She would ask our shared friends. They did not just drop her and were there for her when she needed them. If they had seen me and how I was, they would usually just say, "Doing well and living." I actually ran into her a few weeks after the breakup, and my heart skipped. She did not look like the woman I knew. She looked defeated and down. She was out with some of her other friends, and I could tell she was faking the smile and laughter. She did not see me. It didn't make me sad to see it. I still have the ring. It is in a safe spot. The box I was able to modify and gave it to another friend to use. She said I should sell it, but I declined. So overall, things were getting better. I was still going to hold firm on the no contact, but life doesn't always happen that way. Several things prevented that. We ended up seeing each other face to face 2 times. One being her little sister's play for school. I'd pinky promised her I would be there, and you can't break pinky promises. The second was a mutual friend's birthday. We kept our distance but did do some small talk and blended into the environment. But things changed for me in our situation about a week ago. I still don't have much memory of the day, but this is what my friends have told me. For about a month now, I've been getting migraines right behind my eye. It would make my vision blur. Thinking it was nothing and was because of all the stress and events in my life, I ignored it. I was out with 2 of my friends walking around, talking and shopping. I wasn't feeling well but was still having a good time out. They said we were just walking along when I slowed down, wobbled, and almost face-planted. My friend caught me. I then had a seizure for about a minute. Someone called the medics and I was rushed to the hospital. Long story somewhat shorter, they ran a bunch of tests, and it turns out I have a brain tumor. I think it is called a glioma. My docs believe they can get it out. We are currently waiting for a second opinion. I'm still in the hospital and should find out soon when the surgery will happen. My friends called everyone they could, including Kate and her family. She showed up with her family. I missed them. She was the first person I thought about when I woke up and when I heard the news. We have talked very deeply over the past week. She is actually my one guest I'm allowed to have. She has passed out on the uncomfortable seatbed thing they have. I'm not sure what we are. I do still care about her and love her. The plan moving forward is when my lease is up, I'm not going to renew it. Her family has invited me to move in and take care of me if things go well. I have accepted their offer after much consideration. I won't be able to drive for a while. I'm honestly scared, but I have a good support team behind me. My affairs are in order for the worst case. Thanks for reading this far. I hope you all have an amazing day/week/month/year/life. Please do me a favor and tell the people in your life that you care about, that you love them, and give them a hug for me. You never know what life is going to throw at you. Update 6. I'm being moved to a better hospital that has the doctor they asked the second opinion of. He is one of the top-rated surgeons in the area. Surgery should be happening maybe Tuesday. Things have been rough. I had some side effects again from the brain slug. I'm going crazy slowly. I can't do anything without someone with me or helping me. I feel like this room is getting smaller. The only thing that has helped is friends coming by quickly or just checking in. My boss has been cool. He has promised my job is going nowhere and is helping on his side of things with insurance, leave/disability. Kate's sister made me promise I would be okay. I'm afraid of breaking the promise. Thank you all again. Update was given by OP's XGF Kate. OP is out of surgery, in a stable. Hello, this is Kate. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but OP is out of surgery. The surgeon thinks they got most, if not all, of it out. It lasted a little over 8.5 hours. From what they said, there was a little bit of complications. They got him back. He is stable but in the ICU until they think he is doing things more on his own. Please give him your well wishes and prayers. I just want to add that I do love this man more than anything. I know I messed up. I was stupid a few months back, but I will spend every day for the rest of my life trying to win him back or prove to him I love. I know to you all he is a stranger, but please keep him in your thoughts. His well-being is the most important thing right now. Thanks. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my wife cheating on me with a C-list actor, so I leaked the secret video she recorded. Now she's in jail for illegally filming him, and he's suing her for ruining his career. Hey guys. So I'm going through a pretty shitty situation with my wife, and I honestly can't figure out how to proceed. So I decided to come and ask for help, seeing as the regulars here have been trained by hundreds of stories somewhat similar to mine. So, my wife and I are both 36 years old, and we've been married for exactly 8 years now. The whole situation sucks even more because our anniversary was 2 weeks ago. Anyway, the only background you really need to know is that we don't have any children, and we've always been big fans of TV and movies. It might sound boring, but she doesn't really have any major hobbies beyond that, and I used to game but kind of fell out of love with it as I grew older. So, and this is important, there's a show that airs that I kind of like and that my wife loves. I don't want to say too much to identify it, but it's about to head to a 4th season and it's pretty popular. A particular actor in the show has always caught my wife's eye, and it can be a very annoying thing to experience because I've dealt with women who obsess over attractive celebrities. Can be tiring. You can be right there in the room and they'll start gushing about him. But, if you did the same thing over some supermodel, she wouldn't speak to you for a week. Double standards. Anyway, this actor, let's call him Nolan so I don't need to give too much away. I'm trying not to find myself in any trouble if I might be susceptible to that. He's not popular. If you watch the show in question, you'll know his face, but most people have never seen him in anything else. So he's far from an A-list actor like William Dafoe or DiCaprio. It's hard to even claim he's B-list because his only well-known production is one TV show. Sure, his filmography page has several other movies and shows, but none of them were ever popular, and as something of a cinephile, I feel I'm in a good spot to make that claim. So yeah, I'm gonna call him a C-lister, and that's not out of spite for what eventually goes down. So let me take you all back to a conversation I've had with my wife once in a full and been reminded of several other times. She saw the guy on the TV and said a bunch of nonsense about how he's so handsome, his body is so hot, his voice is so sexy, and on and on. Then, out of nowhere, she says, "I want him to be my hall pass." I was very confused by this, so I asked her to clarify what a hall pass is because those only fit into a high school context in my mind, so it didn't make sense. Well, I bet that a lot of you know, but for those of you who don't, a hall pass is a stupid slang term for the one person that someone in a committed relationship can sleep with without it being considered as cheating. When she said this, I remember I audibly scoffed and told her how stupid it was that she'd even say something like that to me. It devolved into a whole argument that night, but before I slept, I realized that it was basically impossible that she'd ever get the chance to sleep with Nolan. It was mainly the disrespect of saying that you still desire outsiders sexually that got to me. If you feel that much less towards someone, fine, but to admit it to your husband is crazy. Honestly, for the next couple of days, I was still reeling from the disrespect, and I even wanted to come up with some mega hottie to claim as my hall pass in front of her, but it just seemed childish. I decided to be a mature adult at that moment, and I spoke to her at length about how disrespected I felt with the hall pass comment and her thirsting over him generally speaking. She apologized, though it didn't really seem like she understood why, and we left it at that. Over the next few months, maybe 6 or 7 months, she slipped up at least 5 times watching the show or seeing him on social media, and she'd make stupid comments pertaining to how drop-dead gorgeous Nolan was. The first 2 times I told her off, but after that, I gave up because I was tired of having uncomfortable conversations. However, it just made me wonder why not doing things that disrespect me was so hard for her. I've slipped up before on things she's been vocal about that she doesn't like, but I've never repeated the offense more than once. So obviously, over the months, Nolan became more of a sore spot for me. I started to get pissed off every time I'd see his face in the show. Again, though, he was just a face on a screen, so there was really nothing to worry about, right? Wrong. A convention was coming to the city next to us, and thanks to Nolan's Instagram page, my wife found out that he was going to be doing a meet and greet thing there. She didn't consult me on her going, but instead informed me that she was going to, and spent the 2 weeks leading up to it gushing nonstop. At that point, I really loved her, but the obsession was irritating me deeply. In fact, at a point, I got so frustrated that I blurted out, "I really don't think it's a good idea for you to go if you're going to act obsessed like this." She just shot me a horrible look, but I decided to insist and I said, "I really don't think you should go. It's a city over, and you didn't even consult me before making a decision." She said nothing and just left the room, and honestly, I was happy to have gotten it out of my system that I let it go. I assumed that she had gotten the point. Well, until the day of the actual meet and greet, when I saw her wheeling her suitcase to the door. I asked her where she was going, and she told me to the other city for the meet and greet. I think my mouth dropped open because I really didn't think she was going to go through with it. My ride's on the way. I'm going with Susie, a friend of hers who had twice been unfaithful to her husband, though the poor chap had no idea. And we're going to stay the night there in a hotel, so I don't need to come back at night. I'll be back tomorrow morning. To say I was enraged would be an understatement because this whole situation was really touching a sensitive area for me. But I decided I'd let her go and we'd deal with the aftermath of the whole thing after. In retrospect, that was a bad idea, but it's not like I was going to physically restrain her, so I guess I had no choice. I should have tried harder to stop her from going, but I guess if I did, I wouldn't know what I know now. So the entire day went by with basically no communication from my wife beyond her sending a dry text letting me know when she got to the bus station and when she arrived in the other city, and then she basically went dark until the next morning. I swear I called at least 7 times at intervals but got nothing from her, which was incredibly stressful. We were not on good terms, but it doesn't change the fact that I thought she could have been in some kind of danger in a city she wasn't entirely familiar with. I ended up turning into an Instagram stalker. I kept checking the stories of the convention and Nolan, hoping to catch a glimpse of my wife, and among about 34 stories that were posted in total, I finally saw her in one. So I knew she got to the convention safely. It helped put me to rest a bit, but I was still pretty pissed. 7 missed calls, and she didn't have the decency to return one of them. It would just be added to the list of issues we had when she got back. Anyway, as promised, the next morning I was woken up by the sound of the door to our house closing. My wife had gotten back from her trip, and as much as all I wanted to do in that moment was go back to sleep, there was a discussion that needed to be had. She came upstairs and found me sitting on the bed. I remember her pulling a really awkward smile as she went to push her suitcase into the corner. "How was the meet and greet? Did you meet Nolan?" I tried to say that with as little edge as possible, but I'm certain some came out. The meet and greet was nice. Yes, I did meet him along with a few others from the show. It was nice to see these people in real life. I'm glad you got to experience that. Now we need to. Before I was able to get out the rest of the sentence, she jumped in, tears welling in her eyes already. "I know, baby. I'm so sorry. I should have asked if you were fine with me going instead of just choosing to go on my own. That wasn't fair at all, and I was annoyed with how things went earlier on, which was why I didn't pick your calls. But I'm so sorry. The calls at night. Susie and I went to a bar, and I left my phone behind, so I didn't know you called." To be honest, I was disarmed by her apologizing because that was extremely unlike her. So while it was supposed to make me feel a lot better, something just felt off about it. But I decided that I'd do the thinking later. I asked her if I could see some of the pictures that she took, and she obliged happily. Now it was at this point that I noticed a red flag. She angled the phone away from my face as she was looking for pictures. It was subtle, but I'm sure it was intentional. Only after opening a picture did she let me see the pictures she took, including some smiling beside Nolan. though she was the one holding her phone and swiping through them. If you have a Samsung Galaxy phone, you'll know that when you're in the gallery and scrolling through images, there's a little bar at the bottom of the screen that contains thumbnails of all the photos and videos in that folder. I saw something there. It was tiny, but it looked like a large suite of skin tone, like some section of a naked body. I don't think she took that into account when she was showing me the photos, and again, I really couldn't say with any certainty what I was looking at. It came chronologically after the convention events, though that much was clear. I let her keep showing me the images until she was through, and I made the expected comments about Nolan being good-looking, how I was glad she had met her favorite, and a lot of other jazz. But I knew what I needed to do as I was saying all of this. So once I was done and she was done, I encouraged her to go and take a shower to freshen up, and she agreed to do so with a big smile. Once I heard the water start running, I grabbed her phone right away and went to her gallery. There was one video as the very last piece of media in her gallery, and I played it right away. It started off in a dimly lit room. It looked like a hotel room with soft, warm lights, and there was someone close to the camera. I could hear voices, but I couldn't turn up the volume because I didn't want her to hear. But the person near the camera seemed to be propping it up, and once they got it stable, they moved away from it. It was my wife. She was naked. She went to lie down on the bed, and it seemed she was waiting for something. Suddenly, the voices I could hear got a bit clearer as it seemed someone else emerged from the bathroom. The person was naked too, and I didn't even need to see the face clearly to see that it was Nolan. He moved towards my wife and climbed onto the bed. The video was 11 minutes long, and I had to stop there. I couldn't watch anymore. I quickly sent the video over to my phone, cleared any evidence from hers, and I left the house. I didn't know where I was going, but my head was swirling and my heart was pounding. I think I walked for like 20 minutes before I decided it was time to watch the video I had taken off her phone. Watching it in full was horrible for me. Is there really anything worse than watching your wife get pounded by some actor that you started to hate because she likes him so much? Why did she actually get the chance? Did she throw herself at him? Did he actually like her? What was going on? Honestly, it was giving me a headache, and I felt so broken. There was nothing I could have done different, and I recognized that much. I didn't have much in my head as to what I was going to do next, but I know I have to divorce her. That much a fool could tell you. See, being cheated on feels like hell, but it literally could have been anyone else in the world, and it wouldn't have hurt this much. That's when I knew I would have to get back at her, and I'd have to make it hurt. So I eventually headed back home, told her that I had to go for a walk because I was feeling nauseous, and then I did my best to continue to act normal. It's been a full week since I found this out, and she's been exceptionally bubbly. Every time she smiles at her phone, I don't know if she's busy chatting with Nolan or something. I've become so paranoid, and I'm tired of feeling like this. I need to make her hurt as much as I hurt right now, and that's where I need help because I'm blank on exactly what I can do. I'd love to hear what devious plans I can come up with that I can realistically deploy. Honestly, any suggestions are welcome. Update 1. Hey everyone, it's been a few weeks since my last post, but I've got quite a few updates for you on how things have been going down. I read through pretty much every comment on my original post, and I have to say thank you to everyone for really helping me out. My mind felt like it was in a bog, but I was able to find some clarity, so I'll let you know how things went down. The first thing that I did was to call up a divorce lawyer. I had a close friend who went through a messy divorce but managed to get a pretty good hand dealt to him in the end, so he referred me to his lawyer from back then. We started to get to work. The next thing I did was call up Susie, my wife's very close friend. I asked her to let us meet up, and she agreed to that, so we met at a bar. Now, Susie is loose, let me put it like that. Part of me was tempted to get with her to destroy my wife's friendship with her. But it wasn't the time, if it would ever be. But the whole point of meeting up with her was that if anyone knew anything about what had gone down between my wife and Nolan, that C-list actor she slept with, it would be Susie. Susie is a drinker, so as long as there are shots being paid for by someone else, it's easy to get her mouth running. We had some drinks and shots, she had a lot more than me, and engaged in a bit of small talk before we got to the point where she was wasted. I told her I was planning to surprise my wife with a designer bag, and I asked her what she would recommend. She yapped on and on about Chanel and Hermes, and I remember none of the details because it was just meant to be what she would remember. Now, once I noticed that she was really under the influence, I struck. So, Susie, my wife told me everything. I know that she slept with Nolan, that actor. Through her haze, her eyes widened for a second before she went back to normal. How did that happen? I'm just curious. And she refused to tell me. She took another drink, swaying in her seat, before letting me know how my wife had been excessively flirty with Nolan and had passed him a paper with her number on it. My wife is attractive, and as much as I hate her right now, I can admit that. Apparently, she had waited until much later, and Nolan had actually sent her a text that was simply a hotel and a room number. More famous actors probably wouldn't have done something so stupid, but he's not a huge player in Hollywood. So what about the tape? Did he know she made that? That was a suspicion of mine. Nolan might not have known my wife took a video, and if he didn't, that had a lot of potential. A lot. Again, Susie seemed a little shocked that I knew so much, probably surprised that my wife actually came clean. But yep, she confirmed to me that my wife had taken it secretly. She also let me know that she had watched it along with some of her other girls, and that was infuriating. My wife was basically becoming a porn star for her friends, but I knew I was going to take out the trash very soon. I got all the info I needed from Susie, with the entire conversation recorded, and I ordered her a ride to take her home. Hopefully, Susie wouldn't remember all of this in the morning. I was trying my best not to tip my soon-to-be ex-wife off early. As time went on, the lawyer said things were a go. So one night, a few days later, when we were watching Nolan's stupid show, I told my wife that I wanted to get a divorce. She actually choked on the soda she was drinking and spluttered for almost a minute. She was fine. She looked at me, nearly hysterical, asking whether I was joking over and over, but I told her that I wasn't. I thought I had prepared for this part, but it was extremely awkward. I really didn't want to reveal everything I knew yet. In the end, I couldn't take all her questioning and crying, so I left the house. She called me 21 times that night, but I didn't pick up a single call. The next morning, I arranged with the lawyer and had her serve the divorce papers at work. Needless to say, that was embarrassing for her. After I got the confirmation, I went back home because she'd know the reason for the divorce. She came back home within 2 hours of getting served, and when I spotted her, it was clear she had been crying for a long time. She came up to me, got on her knees, and started crying all over my knees, trying to say something, but it only came out as a lot of loud mumbling. It was irritating. It went on for like 20 minutes, and every time I would push her away, she'd start wailing even louder. When I reached my limit, I very sternly asked her to go upstairs to pack her things. She kept crying and crying, and at that point, I managed to hear her saying how sorry she was, how it was a mistake, and on and on. When I heard the mistake part, I actually laughed and shoved her off my knee. She looked at me sadly from the carpet, and I stood up and left the room. In a few hours, she was packed and out of the house. Apparently, she's gone to go and stay with Susie, who, even if she remembers anything about that night, certainly won't volunteer that she fed me with info. Anyway, what's left for me is for the divorce to be finalized because I still have one major trick up my sleeve, but I need things to be officially over before then. Hopefully, I won't lose interest in revenge, but we'll see. Friends. Update 2. Feels like it has been ages, but it has been just under a year. However, I'm finally back with what should be the final update, and boy is it good. So we finalized the divorce, and it's not a process I'd want to go through again. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of stalemating, and just a lot of stress, but it is finally over. I'm going to have to pay alimony, but thankfully her infidelity, which she did a poor job of denying and which I was able to make easy work proving, made the payments a lot less heavy. Plus, the payment term won't be for very long. In the process, I exposed Susie and everything she had let me in on, which was certainly salt to the wound for my wife. A lot of money was split, but I kept the house after an annoyingly long battle on that, and that was good enough for me. Now, once things were clear, this is where I was able to have fun. I had held on to that video since I snatched it off her phone. I mean, Nolan is C-list, but he's still famous, and there's nothing Hollywood loves more than gossip. So who did I hit up first? TMZ. Yep, I let them know what I had for them, and I did a very good job of anonymizing, even though I don't think they snitch on sources. I'm not used to the tabloid lifestyle, so I was trying to be as careful as possible. Once I proved I had what I claimed I had, I got to talking with a journalist from the tabloid and even made a bit of change off it. Not much, but not too little. I must have refreshed TMZ 100 times after that, waiting for when they'd go live with a story. It wasn't the same day, but it eventually showed up on their website the next day. My favorite touch in the article: they used the name I provided. After all, everyone wanted to know who the mystery woman who got the chance to sleep with Nolan was, and they made it clear that Nolan was unaware of the recording. Using the same throwaway email account I used for my correspondence with TMZ, I sent a link to the article to my ex-wife's email address. At this point, all I could do was wait, especially because I wouldn't directly see what was going on in her life and how she would respond to the article. That's what I thought, at least, until she knocked on the door to the house that used to be for both of us 2 days later. She seemed crazy, and she kept saying, "I know it was you. Admit it was you." I kept playing dumb, but I was doing it in an intentionally over-the-top way because I wanted her to know it wasn't just karma, some universal force punishing her. Nah, she needed to know it was me, and I could almost see the point where she realized I was playing coy. It's like she snapped right then, and she lunged for my throat, clawing and striking. I fell over with the force with which she jumped at me, but it wasn't hard for me to get her off me. Thankfully, a neighbor had seen the whole thing. All her noise had attracted his attention, and the police were there in some minutes after the incident. Yes, I pressed charges, which was very satisfying. Most of her family live in other states, and she and Susie had fallen out, so I hoped it took her some time to get someone to post bail for her. Anyway, the assault charge was just a cherry on top for me. I didn't plan for that to happen. The real big thing was her going to court for unlawful surveillance. She recorded Nolan without his consent, and even though she wasn't responsible for the leak, it only existed because she made it illegally. The case went on for quite some time, especially because Nolan sought punitive damages for the harm the leak caused to his career. Apparently, he lost a job in some movie series aimed at younger audiences because of that. That made me feel good. Unsurprisingly, Nolan's lawyers were a lot higher end than what my wife could afford. She took a bunch of my money, but I was glad to see her wasting it on the consequences of her actions. It genuinely made me very happy every time I heard an update on the case, whether it went her way or not. A certain headline called her a groupie. That was fun. To cut a long story very short, she had to spend 2 months in jail and pay a $1,000 fine. As far as I'm concerned, she got off fairly easy, but I'm allowed to be vindictive, aren't I? Well, fellas, now that things have settled down, she's in jail right now, which is fun. I feel so much better, and I feel very satisfied. All I can say is that if you get a sign that someone is cheating on you, run and never look back. Plus, if you can get revenge in the process, never let the chance go. That's it for me. Take care, y'all. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Supported my wife through the pandemic, but she accused me of cheating with our own daughter. Me, 44M. My wife, Grace, 42F. Fake names for obvious reasons, same with throwaway account. Married for 13 years. Together for 16. I met Grace about the time I got out of the military. It was a medical discharge. I met her while I was at the hospital for surgery. She was a nurse on the floor I was staying on, single mom, divorced for a couple of years. I left the military, went back to school, and now I work from home as a software engineer, more or less. We started dating, took it slow the first couple of years because of her daughter, Maya, who was 5 at the time. Grace is still a nurse, and Maya goes to college. I would have said until last month that our marriage was pretty solid. We've had arguments. I admit I was kind of shitty at housekeeping when we first moved in together because I was not used to how much kids tear things up around the house. But other than that, it was good. No step-parent issues. I had an active role in Maya's life because her own father lives overseas for work. We went on dates. Intimacy has always been great. We wanted kids, but it wasn't in the cards for us. Honestly, I'm a bit blindsided. I've had friends who were blindsided by divorce, but I never understood how. Usually, there were problems that they glossed over, and then suddenly their wives would leave them, and they just didn't see it coming. But the rest of us could see it coming from a mile away. So here I'm saying the same thing, and maybe I just missed something huge. The past few months, Grace has been more stressed than usual. Ever since COVID, she's been burned out, and I asked her multiple times if she wanted to quit her job, at least for a couple of years. I thought the burnout was coming to a head. She was withdrawn, angry. She snapped at me constantly. She ridiculed Maya over everything. But she's my wife. She was traumatized by the pandemic, and both Maya and I were understanding. We would do okay with just my salary. So last month, I sat her down to suggest again that she quit and take some time off to heal. Then everything blew up. She started yelling at me that she knew what I was doing. She's known for months. She is proof. I didn't know what she was talking about at first, but it didn't take long to realize she was accusing me of infidelity. I can't lie, I was angry as hell. I opened my phone, handed it to her, told her to go through it. I went and got my laptop, unlocked it, told her to go through that. The whole time she's still shouting at me about some other woman. I don't have traditional social media accounts. I'm on Lobster's Hacker News and I have a Reddit account. I told her to check everything. There's no secret Facebook or Instagram or whatever. No messages from anyone. I opened Discord, even Slack, everything I could think of. But she wouldn't even look at it. She just got angrier and angrier, and then she picked up my laptop and threw it. That's when I had enough and left. I went to my parents' house. All the while, Grace was texting and calling and leaving more and more unhinged messages about this woman she knows I'm with. When I got to my parents' house, I called her once and told her I needed a few days because I was too angry to handle talking to her. My sister called the next morning and told her Grace had called her multiple times as well to see if I was really there. After a few days, I called Grace to talk, and at first the conversation was productive. She apologized for throwing the laptop, but she said I made her so angry because I was being so calm. I told her I was not calm because I was being accused of cheating on my wife and I was furious, but it was either try to talk it out or start shouting, which I didn't think was a good idea. Then she got angry, told me I was twisting her words, and things fell apart quickly. She started going on and on again that she knew I was cheating. She had proof. I asked her what proof because I would like to see it. I don't remember how we got there, but she said she was going to send everything to the lawyer, and I said, fine, send a copy to mine because this was going nowhere. She got really quiet after that and asked if I was serious, and I said I was. I wasn't going to stay in a marriage where my wife thinks I cheated on her but won't tell me why. We ended the call there, and I've been at my parents' house since. My dad is on my side. My mom thinks Grace is just having a rough time and that we can talk this through. My sister is pissed she got dragged into it, so she thinks we're both a holes. And Maya is miserable because she's being torn between me and her mom. I feel like maybe I jumped the gun and should have stayed calmer. Edit. My morning meetings are finally over, and I need to concentrate on my job, so I'm going to be logging out for the day. I'm going to talk to my mom to see if she'll talk to Grace, suggest therapy, couples therapy, etc. I believe those of you who suggested missing reasons are correct. Something is causing this. I just don't know if it's something I've done, stress in her life, or if it's full-on projection. I don't think it is, but you never know. I'll assure Maya again that she has a place here no matter what. As far as I'm concerned, she's my daughter, and of course she's got a place here if she needs it. However, I also won't try to pressure her, considering that's her mom and I know this is pulling her in two ways. Second edit. Okay, so I took a quick break and thought I'd come back and read a couple comments, but there are way too many to read. But there is an overall theme to them, so I'll try to quickly address them here. Someone asked if I was cheating. I understand why you asked that. I never came out and said in the post, but let me assure you, no, I'm not cheating. I never have. Granted, those are just words, and I'm sure some will think that I'm lying, but I love my wife. I never wanted to cheat. I'm not a saint. I've been attracted to people. I think Sahayak is gorgeous. But the thought of cheating has never crossed my mind. A lot of people think she's cheating on me. Again, I don't think so. She's home every night at the same time. She doesn't hide away her devices. Could there be someone at work? Yes. Do I think she's cheating? No. But as many pointed out, those are famous last words. Talking about divorce, staying calm. I have PTSD. I've worked a lot in therapy over the years to process intense emotions. This is why I stay calm, not because I am, but because if I don't, then I get overwhelmed. The talk to my lawyer comment was one of the moments I didn't process well. I don't think it's a good idea to divorce her after over a decade together because of this past month. On the other hand, I know that because it's not a safe place for me mentally, I'll stay at my parents' until we get this resolved. Could it be hormones? Yes, it could. However, my wife is already taking hormones because of a medical procedure she had when she was in her early 30s. Like I said, it wasn't in the cards to have kids. She has to see the doctor usually every 6 months to check her levels. Her last appointment was in March. However, her mood changes started before that. Mental health issues. This is what I think it is personally. Like I said, Grace has been building up to a burnout for a while now. These mood changes started a while ago. This is why I brought up taking time off of work. It's why I brought it up again last month when she blew up at me. I think this is stress. This is why I haven't actually contacted a lawyer, because I hope my marriage can be saved. I think I just wanted reassurance from a neutral third party because I'm so far out of my depth here. To those who don't get my mom involved, my mom already is. She and Grace are incredibly close. She's called Grace every day to check on her. Grace has no contact with her own family, so I'm not really involving mom as much as I'm just asking her to suggest marriage counseling to her the next time she calls. I sure as hell don't want to get some other party involved in this, so I'm not going to contact a friend to talk to my wife. I haven't been no contact with my wife since I left. I probably should have clarified that. She messages me sometimes. It's the same silly stuff we've always talked about, like random memes she's found or crap her coworkers are doing. And sometimes it's her begging me to just tell her the truth. I'm exhausted mentally from this all and at the end of my rope. I've suggested therapy a couple of times already, but that's gotten nowhere. Hopefully, mom bringing it up might help. Why the throwaway? Because my coworkers also have Reddit accounts, and I don't want them to see this post. They might, but hopefully software guy in his 40s with a wife in nursing is generic enough to American audiences that they won't know it's me. But if it's on my actual account, they definitely will. No one at work knows, and I'd like to keep it that way. I think that's everything I want to add, though. Please don't disparage my wife. I'm upset over this because my wife is a great woman. She's smart, she's funny, she's sweet. She's been a wonderful mother. And that's why I've been worried the past few months about her. Because this is so out of character. Additional information from OOP. Well, yes, I would love to tell you why she thinks I'm cheating, but she literally won't tell me. If it's because I'm on my computer too much, or because I use my phone weird, or I'm taking phone calls at odd hours, I don't know. She will not tell me why she thinks I'm cheating, and that's the worst part of this. I could at least figure out what I might need to change. Maybe I'm not being intimate enough? Maybe I haven't set up enough dates? Maybe she's feeling like I'm being distant? But I don't know, and I want to know. I love my wife. I've loved my wife since our second date. I knew I wanted to marry her after the first month. This isn't an argument over me not doing the dishes right or her watching the rest of Fall of the House of Usher without me. She's accusing me of cheating on her, and she won't tell me why. And I can't fix what I don't know. And because I don't know, you don't know. If you can track my wife down and get her side of the story, please pass it on to me. I would also like to know her side of the story. Comments OP on getting therapy for himself and his wife. OP. I'd be happy for any sort of therapy. I've had to do it on and off for years. But she refuses because she thinks it's useless. I'll suggest it, but I don't hold out too much hope. I'm thinking because she's resistant to go to a therapist, I might suggest she goes and checks with her PCP. She's been showing symptoms of burnout for a while, so depression, exhaustion, getting annoyed with us really easy. I personally think this is some kind of issue with stress. Commenter, usually when blanket accusations, it is because they are doing it. Investigate her cheating, especially if in an agitated false state. OP, I don't think she's cheating, but then you're right, it could be projection. She's never accused me of this before. This is brand new, hence why it was so startling. If she had been doing this for years, I think you'd be right. It's why I'm having so much trouble with the whole situation. None of it makes sense. Oh, peon if his wife is likely to receive strange texting scams from someone else that accuses him of cheating on his wife. Oh, p. This is something I never even thought of, so I will definitely look into this. Thank you. I had no idea that this was even a thing, but it would explain why she hasn't shown me the proof yet, because she's waiting on it. Update 1, August 4th, 2024. I don't have the energy or patience to go back to Aita, so I'm just doing this here. A quick and dirty update. No, my wife is not cheating on me as far as I know. She's not sick, got a tumor, or showing signs of early dementia. If she were, those things would be easier to process. Maybe it's perimenopause or menopause. I don't know. I don't care. Yes, I will be seeking a divorce. No, I will not go into it farther. I have already spoken to a lawyer. Maya is currently living with me and my parents. I will be looking for an apartment/condo to rent soon. I feel like I've overstayed my welcome. Maya is thinking of taking some time off to visit her dad. I don't blame her. I'm a mess right now. I don't even know why I logged back into this account other than to say no, my wife really wasn't cheating on me. I can honestly say I wish she was. It'd be so much easier than this. Thanks for the advice and the concern. Update 2, August 7th, 2024. I'm sorry if this isn't the right community, but my friend suggested it, and I thought maybe this might be the right place to vent or get advice or something. I'm not sure what information is necessary or relevant, so I'm just going to write everything down I can think of. I've been married to my wife, Grace, for 13 years. We've been together for 16. When we first got together, she told me she was low/no contact with her family. There was some obvious trauma regarding it, and as someone with PTSD, I respected that she may not be ready to share it. Plus, my family loved her, so I was happy to share. After dating for a while, right before I proposed, she told me more about her family. Grace is from a deeply fundamentalist Christian family. I know the umbrella stuff was a big deal, as well as marrying young and a lot of really effed up sluts. She got married at 16 to the son of family friends. He was 19. She was kind of lucky in a way because her ex-husband moved her across the state and away from her family, and she was able to finish school and start college. From what I can gather, he wanted out of the cult too. She had their daughter, Maya, when she was 21, and he was finishing up his last year of school. When he finished school, he went off to grad school in Europe, and she moved back home to her family. They got divorced soon after. After the divorce, her family tried to marry Grace off to a guy that was over twice her age, which was her cue to finally get out too. From what little she would tell me, it was not an easy exit. A lot of violence was involved, and she suggested there was SA/attempted kidnapping from the older man. However, eventually she got out. She took her daughter, moved in with a distant aunt, cut off most of the family. A few years later, she met me, and the rest was history until this year. The past few months, my wife has been very snappish, sudden bouts of anger, withdrawn. She's a nurse, and I thought at first she was burned out. She was working days at a time with no break during the pandemic. I thought the trauma of that and just non-stop COVID shit was finally coming to a head, and I suggested a few times maybe she should take some time off. The last time I suggested it, she blew up at me and started accusing me of cheating. It was an intense fight. She said she had proof and I wanted to see it. She threw my laptop and I left. We had another fight a bit later over the phone where she said she'd send the proof of my infidelity to a lawyer. And I said, pass it on to mine. After that, we mostly talked via text, and it was mostly her sending me updates at work or silly memes. Periodically, she'd plea with me to tell her the truth about the cheating, but I had no idea what the hell she was talking about. For the past few weeks, I've been waiting to see what proof she had, for her to talk to me more than a few memes here and there, anything. I've been living with my parents, and it's been stressful. I was thinking I was never going to find out what was going on until a few days ago when she showed up at my parents' to talk, and finally she told me the proof of me cheating, which was her coworker had told my wife she had seen me with another much younger woman. So okay, I can handle that. I asked some follow-up questions. What did she look like? Where was this? Etc. I figure out pretty quickly that she's talking about Maya. We go to the hospital to eat lunch with her sometimes, and her coworker must have seen us together. Simple mistake, right? Except my wife knew that her coworker was describing Maya and was more or less suggesting I was cheating on her with the child I helped raise and calls me dad. I tried not to get angry because I know she has a lot of trauma with older men being with younger women, especially after what her parents tried to force her to do. But at the same time, I felt disgusted and betrayed she'd ever think I'd do that. And the conversation devolved into another argument. During that argument, she admitted that it wasn't just any coworker. The coworker is her first cousin, Shalia, and Shalia is still in the church. It all starts tumbling out that she's been hanging out with Shalia during downtime. She's been calling and talking to her dad, the one that tried to marry her off to a man older than I am right now. She's been going to church meetings again when I thought she was at work. And you know what? None of the church stuff would be a problem if she wants to be Christian, whatever. Except everything she's spewing is a contradiction to every other thing she's spewing. First, I evidently am in my prime years for children. I'm 44. I'm past my prime for kids. Maya is 21, and I'm thrilled to have her living at home. But I'm also thrilled she can clean her own bathroom. Because my dad is secular Jewish, he's evil, and that evil is passed down to me. My mom is more evil because she was Christian. She never really was. Her family was lapsed Catholic. I'm not sure she's ever even been to Mass. But Mom turned her back on the church and didn't raise me Christian, which is evil. My mom, a woman who loves my wife probably more than she loves me, is now a sinner and deceitful according to my wife. But more than all of that, the part that makes me sickest and pushed me to actually call a lawyer was that she suggested our daughter, brilliant, amazing kid that loves her mom so much, is to blame because she's young and flaunting herself. It's all jumbled up in my brain. There was so much more. She went on for what felt like hours before I asked her to leave. I wasn't a good provider because she had to work. I know I reminded her that I was suggesting she'd take time off from work, but evidently that was proof that I was just trying to isolate her from her family. There were so many tangents and conspiracies, like suggesting she get therapy, which I've been doing since before the pandemic, but especially after the pandemic, was me trying to brainwash her to be okay with me having an affair with Maya. I don't understand any of it. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how to even start. That evening after my wife left, Maya called crying because her mom was saying some really awful shit to her. So I told Maya to come stay with my parents and that just added flames to fire. So now Grace thinks we're living together. I called a lawyer, and I think my marriage is over, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where the fundamentalist shit starts and where the conspiracy ends and what I'm even supposed to do to fix things. I don't know that I can fix things. I don't even know how I missed things falling apart to this extent. Update 3, August 11th, 2024. I saw my wife earlier today. Wanted to sit down and start talking about what divorce was going to look like between us. We have over a decade of our finances, our home, our lives intermingled. I've been paying for Maya's school. It's her job that we get most of our insurance coverage from. I put the down payment on our house, but she's paid off just as much of it as I have. We'll have lawyers do all this, but at the same time, I just wanted to look at her and make her see what she was doing. Divorce isn't just a word. It's a real, concrete thing. The lives that we have been living are over as we know it. We're not old. It's not like we can't move on from this. But at the same time, I've been her husband for so long, I don't know who I am without her. When I got home, I started drinking, and I haven't stopped all evening, which is stupid. Don't do what I did. I just couldn't stop. I kept seeing her sitting across from me, refusing to look at me. I don't know her anymore. And I'm not sure if I ever did. My therapist talks about masking, right? Because of the PTSD and ADHD, I mask a lot with coworkers or clients or whatever, but I never had to mask at home. And now I'm wondering if this entire marriage she was just masking being happy with me. Was she miserable the whole time? Did she pick me because I was stable and a good dad figure to Maya? I'm not ugly. I'm not handsome either. Our sex life was good. But was it? Was she just doing it because she learned all that shit as a kid that she had to please her husband? I feel sick. I feel like I abused her because I don't know how much of it was her and how much was just the programming she went through in that church. And Maya, Maya is just, she's not great. She's trying so hard to be stoic and strong. But she's my baby girl. I taught her how to fish and she's better at it than I am. She taught me how to knit when I was having trouble with work during the pandemic and struggling with the lockdown. She's such an amazing kid, and she's hurting, and I hate Grace for that. I hate her for hurting our kid. But I love her, and that hurts too. I don't know what the point of this was. I came back to read over the theories about cheating on me or menopause. I thought what we had was fixable. I thought if I worked at it we could change things. And it's just over. So final. Let that be a lesson. Sometimes shit just ends, and there is nothing any of us can do about it. Comment. You and Maya will get through this, and she will need you more than ever now. I was hoping this was going to be a silly misunderstanding. Keep Maya out of this cult if possible. Best of luck to both of you and take care of yourself. Maybe get some kind of counseling. This would be a major transition if it were a simple divorce, and it is very not simple. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Caught my wife having an affair after I told her to help my best friend after his wife passed away. Later, she got an abortion because she wasn't sure who the father was. I don't even know where to begin. I can't describe how I'm feeling right now or how to process any of this. I made this account initially to see if anyone else has gone through something remotely similar to this, and unfortunately, it's not that uncommon. I apologize in advance for the length of this post. I just needed to get this all out, because I thought I'd go insane. I met my wife, we'll call her Sue, in college. We were both 18 at the time. We hit it off as soon as we went on our first date and were spewing I love yous within weeks of us dating. She kind of pursued me, but I was glad as hell that she did. We shared our deepest insecurities and secrets with each other. And when her dad passed away in her senior year of college, I was there for her through the whole ordeal. Her father had pancreatic cancer, and when he was hospitalized, I'd spend nights at the hospital with her, so she wouldn't be alone. We got through it, and that point in time strengthened our bond. She told me she didn't know what she would have done if I hadn't been there for her. She called me her soulmate. I knew I was going to marry this girl, and sure enough, I popped the question about 2 years after we graduated. At that point in time, life couldn't get any better for me. I married the girl of my dreams, had a well-paying job immediately after graduating, and both our families loved us. My best friend, we'll call him Dave, and I had what I could only describe as an unbreakable brotherly bond, or so I thought. We had known each other since 3rd grade, and he was the brother I never had. He was also married and moved away with his wife because she had landed a lucrative job at a big law firm. About a year ago, his wife died in a car crash, and this broke him. He moved back to our hometown after, but he was never the same. I tried to be there for him, but he wouldn't engage with anyone. No one understood the pain he was going through, so I asked my wife if she could talk to him, seeing as she had also lost a loved one and that maybe Dave could relate better with someone who went through something similar. Yes, I know now that this was a huge mistake. We'd pay him visits daily. She would spend hours on end at his place, even without me there. They were going on hikes together, watching movies and not inviting me, grabbing lunch, all things couples do. Now, obviously, this was far more interaction than I had intended for them to have, and it did make me uncomfortable, but Dave was doing much better from it. It's important to say that Dave and Sue never liked each other before all this happened. This is because Sue always thought he was a douche. Before he married his wife, Dave was bouncing from relationship to relationship, and even after he got with his deceased wife, he constantly cheated on her. As a result, Sue had a particular dislike for him and always questioned how I could be friends with someone with such low morals. This disdain for Chris is also what made me oblivious to what was to come. As I mentioned, Sue and Dave became inseparable, to the point where she would invite him to things I had planned for us as a couple. Moreover, she started portraying characteristics of what I now know to be classic cheater behavior. Always on her phone, becoming increasingly distant, little to no intimacy, and coming home very late. At this point, it was all too suspicious, and one day she was texting and I asked who she was talking to. She said it was one of her girlfriends, and when I asked to see what they were saying, she became very irritated and called me possessive. When I talked to Dave about how uncomfortable their friendship was making me, he assured me nothing was up and even accused me of not trusting him and my own wife. I was getting gaslit. This continued until one day Sue went out again. She said she was going to her sister's for the week again because she needed some space from me because I was driving her crazy with my accusations. I was still very suspicious and called her sister to confirm if she was indeed expecting Sue to visit. She confirmed that she was, but that Sue had not yet arrived. Mind you, she had left around 3 p.m., and her sister's place is about 4 hours away from where we live. It was now 10 p.m. Something in the back of my head told me to go to my friend's house, so I did. Sure enough, my wife's car is parked a couple of feet away from my friend's house. At this point, it was clear as day as to what was going on, and I hate to admit it, but I cried hard. After a few minutes, I decided to go in and see if this is really what was happening. I went in through the back door, which I knew would be open. I quietly made my way in, and I could hear my wife moaning. I was shaking when I made it to the door of his bedroom. I could see through the crack my wife bent over on his nightstand. I'll never get that image out of my head. I'm literally crying as I'm writing this down. I pushed the door wide open, and they both froze, staring at me. It took every ounce of my being not to beat the living hell out of Dave. I just walked away and got into my car. I could hear them scrambling, and my wife started screaming at me to stop and that she can explain. I didn't want to look at her. I don't know what I would have done, so I just drove away. I cried the entire drive home, and they were both spamming me with calls. I went to one of my college friends and have been here the past week or so. I can't eat, I can't sleep, and I can think of anything else. I informed my work of what was going on, and they were kind enough to give me time off. I've been getting phone calls from both Dave and Sue, as well as both our families. I let my family know I was all right and would be back soon, but I haven't responded to anyone else ever since. This hurts so bad. I want to die. I want to be gone from this world, but I'm too much of a coward to do it myself. I'm trying to be strong, but my resolve is wavering. How can someone you love so selflessly do this? I don't know what to do. How do I deal with this? Please help me. Date 1. First off, I wanted to thank you all for your support and words of advice. You all made this time in my life somewhat bearable. Some of you shared your own stories and made me realize that this is something I can come back from. I had many thoughts about self-deletion, but I think I'm past that now. Thank you so much for caring. Many of you were asking me for an update, so here it is. Email content is missing here in the original text, but the narrative continues as if an email was shared. I don't know what to make of that. There are many more of those kinds of emails, but I wanted to share that one because it left me confused. I definitely don't know the person I married. What do you guys make of it? As many of you guys suggested, as well as family and friends, I contacted a lawyer and met up with her yesterday. I gave her all the details, and she seems to be very motivated to help me come out of this as financially whole as possible, given the circumstances. I still love my wife dearly, but I don't know if this is something I can get over. I received lots of messages from Dave too, but I don't want to read them. I often switch from sorrow to rage and don't know how to feel right now. Should I try to see if reconciliation is possible? Or should I just end this marriage now and save myself more heartbreak? My family knows everything. Apparently, Sue confessed what she had done to everyone. I've been away from everyone for more than 2 weeks now, and I still don't know what to do. The pain still feels fresh. Every time I close my eyes, I can see nothing else but Sue and Dave together, and the pain doesn't seem to be lessening. I know most of you are saying to just divorce, and I would say the same thing too, but things aren't that black and white when you are the one in the situation. Given all this new info, I'd appreciate any advice, particularly from people who've been here, betrayed spouses and waywards. How did you manage to move past this? Is it even possible? Right now, I'm almost certainly going to move on with the divorce, but I just need reassurance I'm making the right decision. I've read all your comments and felt I needed to add this. I was told by her, as well as family and friends, that she has been living with her sister the past few weeks. In one of her emails, she explained that she has only spoken to Dave once since I found out and went full and see with him. Her mother called me and apologized for her daughter's behavior via text. I didn't pick up her calls. She said Sue is in individual counseling at the moment. In another one of her emails, she said she was never going to leave me for Dave. She has feelings for him, but she doesn't love him. Dave is supposedly leaving soon, but is apparently holding it off until he speaks to me face to face. There's a lot of other stuff I haven't addressed, and I'm probably leaving out some details, but some of my family and friends are saying I should just talk to her and move on from there. That's where I'm at now. Update 2. So, I took some time off of Reddit and other social media to reflect on my marriage and the steps I was going to take moving forward. I was getting lots of advice from the kind people on here, as well as family and friends. However, I wasn't sure what I really wanted. A lot has happened since then, so this might be a novel. Bear with me. When I looked back on the marriage, most of it was filled with little else but happy memories, which is why I was trying so hard to find a reason to stay. However, when I started thinking about her cheating, how she and Dave gaslit me and made me question my sanity, the only thing I felt was rage. The deeper I looked, the angrier I got. I will never forget how angry Sue would get when I questioned her on where she'd been when she came home late, or the disgusted look Dave gave me when I asked him man to man if there was anything going on between him and my wife. The cheating was bad enough, and even worse was that it was with my best friend. But the gaslighting, the effing gaslighting, I will never get over it. Fair enough, I was played like the fool I was, but it takes a special kind of person to lie so effortlessly and so well. I don't know how they were able to flip the switch like that. I remember one night when she came home late, about 2 days before I found out. She was telling me how much she loved me and how horny she was when she was driving home thinking about me. Now, I'm almost certain she had come home from Dave's because she wasn't wearing any panties. She had sex with both of us back to back. I kissed her. This whole situation made me feel like a wimp. How could I have let them walk all over me like that? I feel so emasculated. The more I reflected, the more I got the urge to head over to Dave's. But I couldn't. There is no justice for me, not with our justice system. They get to torment me, assault me mentally, but if I retaliate, I'm the one who gets put in jail for who knows how long. I spoke with my lawyer about this, and she urged me not to do anything stupid. Not only would I go to jail, but I would jeopardize my chances in the divorce proceedings. She suggested I see a therapist, but I don't want to. I don't see the need. I was still getting spammed with emails from Sue, and they were just making me angrier. She was still spewing the same nonsense as before and how miserable her life would be without me. She even had the nerve to send me Bible verses on forgiveness. If I mattered that much, why do it? I started going to work again because I wanted to be busy. Being distracted has really helped me cope better, and I don't drink as much as I was at the beginning. One day while at work, I received a letter from Sue. I wanted to just throw it away but decided to read it. In it, she talked about her individual counseling and how it helped her discover some underlying issues she was having with herself, the biggest of all being her low self-esteem. She explained that the discrepancy in our attractiveness made her very self-aware, and that deep down she wanted to feel desired by someone other than me. According to her, her sister has always been much prettier than her, and this contributed to her low self-esteem. She said that even though she knew I was attracted to her and that I made her feel beautiful, she sought that validation from someone else. She apologized again and said it wasn't an excuse, but that she was simply looking for a way to make sure it never happens again, if should I decide to give her another chance. She then proceeded to ask if we could try marriage counseling to work things out. Still didn't respond to anything she or her family sent me at this point, so I just ignored it. Anyway, I started the divorce proceedings, and the first order of business was splitting our finances. Unfortunately, I couldn't untangle myself from her without her consent. We each have separate accounts, as well as a joint savings account, and unfortunately, I can't take what I'm entitled to from it without her, even though I make significantly more than she does and have contributed the most of the money in that account. I'll probably have to split it with her 50/50ths. So, I just proceeded with filing the divorce papers. She was served a few weeks ago, and then the shit show started. The very day she was served, she showed up at my apartment with the divorce petition in her hands. I don't know how she found out where I was. We just stared at each other for what felt like forever, and all the pain from that night came back. All the emotions I felt returned with renewed vigor. I almost teared up again, but I didn't. She looked like she had been crying, and she rushed towards me and tried to give me a hug. I gently pushed her away, and this somehow made her hysterical. She started shouting, asking why I was giving up on us so easily and if we could just talk it out. At this point, I figured I just wanted to get away from her. Looking at her gave me a wave of different emotions, so I wanted to get away before I did or said anything I would regret. I tried going back to my car, and she threw herself on the top of the hood. I asked her what she wanted, and she said she just wanted to talk things through, that we couldn't end our marriage in such a manner without at least clearing the air. I relented because she was clearly not taking no for an answer and was making a scene. We got into my apartment, and I just sat down and listened to what she had to say. Again, she said she would do anything to save our marriage, that she doesn't love Dave, that she's sorry. She said she did some research on how we can move forward and suggested a trial separation. In this separation, she said I could date whoever I wanted, but that I should hold off on the divorce and at the very least give her the chance to mend our friendship and then our relationship as husband and wife. She suggested a lot of other crazy stuff like a one-sided open marriage in my favor, tried showing me stories of other couples who have survived infidelity, and even suggested that we should just move to a different state or even a different country, just the two of us. That part kind of hurt me because we had spoken about moving and starting our family not too long before all this shit happened. When she was done, we just sat there in silence again, just staring at each other, and then I asked her why. Why him? Why cheat on me with him and then come back only after I caught her? She started sobbing really hard when I asked these questions. She said she felt really guilty even during the act, but that she didn't know how to stop, that she was so deep in the affair that she didn't think of the consequences and what she was going to lose. She said that the counseling made her realize that she probably would have cheated on me at some point, if not with Dave, then with someone else. This was supposedly because of the same underlying issues that she was unaware of. I asked her if she loved Dave, and she promised me she didn't love him, that they haven't spoken since I left and that she doesn't even know where he is now, that she loved only me and would do anything to make up for what she has done to us. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before all of this, and she swore on her dead father that this was the first and last time. I asked her who else knew about her and Dave. She hesitated and said only her sister, but that she only knew about it a few days before I found out and that she implored her to end it and come clean to me. You guys who suggested that the sister knew were spot on. I also asked her why she was begging, why she didn't just leave to be with Dave. I asked her if she was only doing this because she felt like it was the right thing to do and not because she actually wanted to be with me. She answered saying that she was doing it because she loves me and because she knows she made some horrible choices. We talked for a long time, a lot of crying on her end, but not for me. I had cried enough when I first found out and didn't have any more tears to shed over this. Then I asked her if there was anything else she wanted to tell me, if there was anything else she was keeping secret. She started sobbing again and asked me not to get angry. I got really nervous when she said that. She started crying for a bit before I urged her to just say it because she was making me uneasy. Then it came out. She said she found out she was pregnant not long after I had left and that she got an abortion because she wasn't sure who the father was. She said she thought if it turned out to be Dave's, there would be no room for reconciliation, and she felt she had to do it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was in shock, and she started begging even more not to let this be the end of our relationship. I just went numb. I asked her to leave and she begged me to stay, that we still needed to talk. All this begging was simply infuriating, coupled with the news I just heard. I asked her how far along she was when she found out she was pregnant, and she said a few weeks. Then it hit me. Wait, you said in an email that you only started having sex with Dave about a week before I found out. Was that a lie? She nodded. She explained that she only said that because she didn't want to hurt me with the details and was trying to minimize it. She confessed that it was physical for less than a month. She tried to console me, but I pushed her away. I asked her to leave and never come back. She tried saying something, but I just started yelling at her to leave. She asked if we could talk again once I've processed everything, and I refused. I told her I had found a job in another state and would be moving as soon as the divorce was underway. In our state, there is a 2-month cool-off period after you file. I had already planned on doing this and was just finalizing everything before I resigned from my current job. I had already given my boss a notice at that point. When she heard this, it was more of the same crying and pleading like before. I told her to leave or I would call the police. She reluctantly left, and I just lay on the floor wondering where I went wrong. How did my marriage get to this point in such a short period of time? I just couldn't understand it. I was somewhat sure of the divorce before, but after she and I spoke, I was now more sure of my decision than ever before. I ignored all efforts on Sue's end for contact again. However, a few days ago, this was on Thursday, I received a phone call from my mom that Sue was in the hospital. Apparently, she was hospitalized for a drug overdose. This all felt like a nightmare. I still don't know how to process all of this. Why is all of this happening? I visited Sue in the hospital and she seemed to be okay, but she was checked into a psych ward. That's where things are at now. I still have no idea why she would do this, and the time I visited her, she was asleep. It hurts because I still love her, and right now I'm just happy she's okay. I haven't been thinking of the divorce given what's going on right now. How do I even proceed? There's probably a lot of important details I'm leaving out, but adding them will just make this unbearably long. I just need suggestions on what I should do next. Edit. I didn't get to reply to most of your comments, so please chime in. I could really use the advice. Thank you all. Update 3. I was hoping my last update would be my last post relating to this matter, but here I am again. It's been about 8 months since my life turned into a shit show, and unfortunately for me, things just keep getting worse. I'm not going to go into detail, but I hope I can give enough to get some constructive feedback from you on here. You've been far more helpful than you know. The last time I posted, Sue was in a pretty bad mental state. Unfortunately, she got better after some therapy. I felt really bad for her, but I knew I couldn't stay. I know a lot of people have made it through this kind of stuff, but I know myself. Had I stayed, I'd only be doing myself and her more harm than good. I'll never get over it and will probably harbor some resentment even a couple of years from now. We agreed to divorce, but she wanted us to remain in contact, even if it was just minimal. The divorce process was pretty smooth, and we got divorced about a month ago. I moved to the West Coast to start new, and things were finally starting to look good for me. But then I got a phone call about Sue again, from her sister, and long story short, Sue suffered from a stroke. She is almost completely immobile on the left side of her body and can barely speak. I can't even put into words how devastating that was to hear, let alone how crushed I felt. When I went to visit her, she looked nothing like the person I knew, and she'd always cry when she saw me. One of the worst parts about all this is I can't help but feel like it's my fault this happened to her. People tell me it isn't, but I feel like it is. Even though her closest family says it's not my fault, I can sense some hostility from them whenever I speak to them. Her aunt cussed me out in front of everyone when she saw me, and they were all silent. They just asked me to leave it alone and get on with my life. As much as I wish I could just move on, it still hurts knowing how all this shit turned out. I haven't spoken to Sue since she got the stroke, and her family won't let me see her cause apparently I cause her stress. I don't even know the full details because I don't have the right to know now. I just can't seem to catch a break. EFF me, I guess. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Future MIL demanded to wear white at my wedding and wanted me to wear pink. When my fiancé finally confronted her, she had a complete breakdown and claimed she couldn't breathe. I, 27F, have been with my fiancé, John, 28M, since high school. We dated and broke up because his mother, Debbie, 53F, convinced him we were too young to be in love. We broke up and went to college. During my sophomore year, we started talking on socials again. He apologized and said he missed me. We got back together. Cue the waterworks. Debbie literally cried the first time she saw we were back together and told John that I have done witchcraft on him. I've always respected Debbie out of respect for my mother and upbringing. I was not raised to go back and forth with my elders, but she definitely abuses that. Since John and I decided to get back together, she has tried to hook him up with women from her church, her job, and even asks her friends for their daughters to give it a shot. JN denies all of them and Debbie says that I'm controlling. John has told her to stop, but not in a way I feel she gets the point. Anyway, 3 months ago John proposed. Deb didn't come to the engagement party, cool. She didn't come to the family dinner we had so both sides could meet, cool. John's dad came and apologized for his ex's behavior. He left her when John graduated HS. I told him don't worry about it. The problems really began when John decided to confront his mother about how she's behaving toward our whole engagement. This turned on the light bulb in his brain as he's always tried to ignore it and tell me to ignore her. She gave him a sob story about how she got pregnant with him before marriage and never really got to have a wedding, and this is triggering her. She had a shotgun wedding at the courthouse. He asked her what she needed to feel comfortable, and she responded that if she wore white and I wore a soft pink or lavender, she would feel comfortable. My fiancé, for some reason, thought this was a fair compromise. He also said, not asked, that his mom could walk me down the aisle so she can get her moment in her dress. I told him absolutely not, and we got into an argument about it. I told him that it's insane that he would argue with me to defend his mom's honor but wouldn't do the same the other way around. He accused me of being petty and selfish. It was bad. We both have agreed to cool off, but by how heated it got, I could tell we both almost agreed to call it off. Now we're in a weird space, and I love JN, but now see how much he lets her impact our life. I just imagine her sitting at home with this evil grin knowing she's ruining my relationship with JN, and he's just putty in her hands. I think I should just call off the wedding. IO, or is it just a color? Update 1. December 12th, 2024. Hey everyone. Not sure if this is the update everyone wanted, but this is what happened since my last post. I laid out a couple of talking points that I couldn't articulate over the rage. I met up with John after work at home. I was at the gym letting off steam. We spoke on everything and made plans to speak to his mother. JN came home remorseful. He told me he was anxious about it and brought it up to a coworker/friend about how I don't want to compromise. Apparently his friend, God bless his soul, went off on him about him being cringy. This angered me, so when I say it, it's a problem, but another man tells you and now you see the other side. I brought up my talking points and being easily being manipulated. This was also proved when I said he would listen to whatever another man said before his partner, even though his friend agreed with me. It hurt that he didn't listen to me. His mom going out of her way to break us up with this silly request. He was way more open to this theory now knowing how cringe he looks even telling this situation to someone else. I compared it to a father removing a bride's wedding garter. He got the point. Him agreeing to his mom's crazy request before even talking to me. He claimed he didn't. Betty told her he'll see how I feel about it and just brought it up to me. I asked why did he not see that his mother walking down the aisle on his wedding day was extremely creepy. He said it's just a dress in his eyes. He just didn't want his mom to miss the wedding. I told him there will be no wedding if he doesn't straighten up. He said he understood. Me showing him how blatantly obvious it was she hates me. She didn't even ask to wear white alongside me, which is still weird, but that I don't wear white at all, as if I'm some pure thanks Reddit because I wasn't even thinking of that one. He said he didn't see it that way. He just knew she hasn't been showing up because she said seeing me and white hurts her. So I said, do you not hear your own mom saying she wants to be the bride herself, that she can't stand at being me? It finally looked like a ding went off in his head. Me asking him what role would she play in our wedding, childbirth, Mother's Day, and everything to come? Would I always come second place? He assured me I wouldn't, and he realizes how bad he up. He was just trying to keep the peace. I asked by always making her happy and making me miserable? I refused to live my life this way. He agreed and said he was sorry and that he wouldn't want me to be miserable. We have no children yet, but we created a plan in how to deal with any big milestone. She won't be there for anything unless I'm comfortable with it, and I won't be unless she does a 180. I asked what did his mom say to change his mind, and you all guessed it, she cried. She cried about how her baby was getting taken away from her, how she never got her wedding, how his dad left her and she was alone and had no one else, that she felt sick and just wanted to experience a real wedding before she dies. She is perfectly healthy unless there's something she hasn't told us. Elle just told him if that was enough to manipulate him, what's to say he won't turn on me again? He said his friend and dad talked sense into him about how he was going to lose me. I told him today was the last straw for me. He had to do 4 things to keep me engaged to him if he even cared to go ELC with his mom, and do not let her make any decisions on our wedding, which will be postponed another year to see if he actually sticks to his word. He has to go to counseling individually and couples counseling. He has to speak to his mom with me present about her behavior toward me because every time he goes by himself he comes back with a reason why he left it alone. He must create strong boundaries and learn to uphold them. He agreed. Then came the bad part. I showed him the post. I felt so bad as he read everyone rip him to shreds in the comments. I could see how uncomfortable he was as he read how much of a mama's boy he was and other things about his mom. He was hurt that I agreed that I should leave in some comments. He read for a few minutes until he saw someone call him a spineless "see you next Tuesday" and then gave my phone back. He said it was really harsh, but I had to show him how crazy the situation sounded, even if it was just to keep the peace on a surface level. Him reading the post was icing on the cake. He said he saw everyone telling me to leave and his heart physically started hurting knowing that he deserved it. We called his dad, who I'm no longer calling future Phil because I will call this wedding off tomorrow if he doesn't have my back when we speak to his mom. John's dad, Dan, who I'll name since he's in big part of this update. Dan also read John the riot act again. He was relieved JN decided to get his act together. We agreed to go to Deb's house tomorrow with Dan and John's aunt. My dad is tagging along. John has said he will tell his mother that she can't under any circumstances make our wedding about her. He also said if she does cry or try to guilt trip him, he will tell her he's going and see. I feel terrible as getting a man to stop talking to his mother isn't something I ever thought I even wanted. I doubt Debbie will come around, especially not tomorrow with all of us against her. I don't know if John will backtrack as soon as he gets there. I have explained if he doesn't grow a spine, I'm leaving. He either can marry me or marry his mom, but that's my ultimatum. He said he chooses me. We'll see. I guess this all should make me happy, but I still feel icky. I'll update tomorrow after we all talk to Debbie. Update 2. December 13th, 2024. Hey everyone. I'm back with the last update. This is a bit long, so buckle up. To all the people who have reached out with positive vibes and advice, thank you so much, you cutie patties. Anyway, John and I met up after work and we headed to pick up Dan. John's aunt couldn't make it. My dad was meeting us there. I had really bad anxiety. I told Dan and Dad they should give us a few before knocking so she doesn't feel ambushed. They agreed. Here's the part everyone was waiting for. We get to Debbie's. My heart feels like I'm going up the world's tallest roller coaster slowly. JN is quiet. We get there and he gives her a firm but respectful, "Hey Mom." We sit down and JN tells her we came to talk to her. She asked what's wrong. John got right into it. He bluntly said to her that her actions toward me for years have been petty. Her not showing up for any of our wedding events was unacceptable to him. He flat out asked her why does she have a problem with me? I genuinely thought he was going to start with the dress situation. He went for the root of it all. Debbie acted like she had no idea what he was talking about. She has actively tried to get him to cheat/leave me for other women, but in that moment was shocked and doesn't know where this was coming from. She said she has no problems with me and loves me like a daughter. She looked at me like she expected me to talk. But like I said to you all, I wanted to see what John had to say. He asked her to be honest and named all the times he's recalled that she insulted me to my face and behind my back. He mentioned she also tells him he could do better every time I'm not around. This was news to me, but am I shocked? No. Deb was livid. She genuinely couldn't believe he added her like that. She starts going off on him, calling him disrespectful and saying he was disrespecting his own mother. For an outsider, she kept saying, "I know she made you do this. I know she's the one making you disrespect me like this." John was trying to reason with her and get her to calm down. I text N and my dad to come in. Once they were inside, Deb became a different person. She was startled as she wasn't expecting them, and then all of the things she was just saying went out of the window. She turned to Dan and my dad and said John walked in and just started yelling at her because of me. My dad looked at me and I shook my head no. Once Dan and Dad got and everything was calmer for a little while, she went back to denying she didn't like me. They all told her that it was obvious that the dress request was shameful of her. She immediately replied, "It's shameful that I won't let her son spend time with her." John said that's not true. At this point, I'm burning inside. I wanted to correct all of her inaccuracies, but I stood quiet. John asked her what's the real issue with OP? Deb starts saying how she knew I was going to be an issue since we were in HS. She said that once JN got with me his grades started dropping, which isn't true. That he stopped making time for family, also not true. That he once didn't show up to celebrate Mother's Day with her a few times because of my birthday. My birthday is in April, Mother's Day is in May. That once we got back together, He forgot about her completely because I made him abandon her. He goes to her house minimum 3x a week. She said the fact that we had the engagement party without checking how she felt about it was wrong, and all the evidence she needed to see what kind of woman I am. My dad pointed out that she didn't pay for the engagement dinner to have any input on it. Dan asked her what was she thinking asking to wear white at our wedding? Why is she so hungry for attention? Her face got red and she went off. She told Dan maybe if he would have properly married her and gave a real wedding, she wouldn't feel left out. Dan straight up called and said that she didn't want to have a real wedding even though he tried to convince her, the reason being that her mother told her pregnant brides are tacky. She started crying. I honestly felt bad for Debbie here. Mothers, be nice to your daughters or you'll create Debbies. My dad got everyone to calm down. Jan finally spoke again and told his mom that he can't keep defending her when she won't even try to respect me. That for his sanity and our relationship, he's going LC. Deb kept crying and said that John can't leave her for dead. She's the only mother he'll ever have. Mothers are forever, wives are not. I'm not even his wife yet and I'm already tearing apart the family. He kept going. He told her that we were going to get married. She can't respect me or stop crossing boundaries. She'll get cut off completely. That his visits are dropping down to 1 every 2 weeks and that she needs to call less. She started going off. She knew it. I'm doing something to him. What did I do to her son? I'm a manipulator and a problem. She told my dad he raised a demon. My dad shot back at her to watch her mouth. Jan kept shouting, "Mom, stop! Mom stopped!" But she kept screaming and then she started hyperventilating. Whoever called it, you might be able to see the future. She was gripping John's arm saying she can't breathe. This was when I said to myself, oh no, he's about to flip-flop. He looked at me and I know he knew what I was thinking. John got her a cup of water, then asked his dad if he could make sure his mom was okay and asked my dad to take Dan home. Dan and Dad agreed and his mom started crying louder. She literally screamed, "I can't breathe," as we walked out so he could hear her. I felt terrible and I finally spoke. I told John the first, "I'm sorry," and I understand if he felt bad. He said he knew she was faking it but his instincts wanted to run over and make sure she was okay. I asked, "Are you?" He said no, but he looked really sad about it. My dad walked out behind us. My dad has never seen this side of Deb. Neither have I. She's always been catty or shady toward me, but this was insane. My dad straight up told John that his mom needed help with her mental health. John said he's going to talk to his aunt about getting her help. We went home and John cried. He said he cried because he watched his mom villainize him and tell others that he just walked in and verbally abused her. He said it reminded him of the times he would to fight with his dad because his mom would say Dan would just come from work and yell at for no reason. I guess it was déjà vu for him. He was silent after she said that, so I do believe it struck a nerve with him. He decided to go and see for now. I did ask him if he was okay with me posting this part and he said yes. Before we went to Deb's house, I called a couple of counselors in our area to check availability, and our first couples therapy session is next month. It's a little while away. He called his provider today to check for a therapist within his insurance and got an appointment for himself for the 23rd. The ball is rolling and John seems like he's on the same page, just me. I know this is killing him though. Dan called us and let us know he got Deb to calm down. He said he spoke to her as best as he could about her harming her own relationship with John, but she didn't want to hear it. Thank you, Reddit. I really didn't expect this to blow up like this. The advice and well wishes I got from this was so overwhelming in a great way. While I should be happy, something about it all just makes me feel down. I hope that Debbie gets better and we can one day have her in our lives. Something about that comment about her mother made me hurt for little Debbie. Hopefully one day I'll get to hear her stories. Now I'm going back to my regular life and hopefully I won't ever have a dramatic update for you guys ever again. Now on to the next story. Story 6. My half-sister destroyed my marriage, stole the life I once had, and now she wants me to officiate her wedding. But I had a plan for revenge. My husband, Jerry, 52 male, and I, 48 female, had been together for about 12 years and married for 10. We were so joyful at the beginning, you know? Every moment we spent together was a source of delight, filled our days with laughter, dreams, and the little things that made us love each other even more. We were a team tackling life together. Our smiles were contagious and everything seemed a little better when we were together. We soaked up the love we had, from cozy Sundays to odd date nights that just made everything feel great. Life was simple and we enjoyed every moment of it. But suddenly, things began to shift. Date nights became stressful and the casual laughter was no longer as loud as it always was. I started noticing that he was spending more and more time on his phone than with me. Date nights were no longer lighthearted. There was a palpable strain in the air. Our happiness had begun to fade, and I couldn't escape the feeling that our relationship was slipping away from me. The intimacy we previously shared was fading, replaced by a growing distance that seemed difficult to repair. I began to suspect Jerry might be having an affair. Late-night phone calls and odd messages became too common for me to dismiss. I questioned his behavior changes, as well as the fact that he felt distant even when we were only inches apart. But Jerry ignored it, claiming that I was reading too much into his conduct and that he was simply preoccupied at work. In my gut, I knew it wasn't just paranoia. It was a feeling that our marriage was taking an unforeseen turn. On a Friday evening, I planned to surprise Jerry with a dinner date, hoping to revive our relationship. I eagerly went to his office to pick him up, anticipating a night of connection and joy. However, my elation quickly changed to regret when he sent me a message saying he would be working late owing to an onerous workload. I sighed, accepting the change in plans without letting him know I was waiting for him below. I was about to depart when I noticed Jerry exiting his employment, which surprised me. This confused me because it contradicted his message about a difficult workload. Puzzled, I watched him get into his car and drive away. I decided to follow him instinctively, with curiosity in my heart. Little did I know that what I was about to witness would rock me to my core. I followed him as he pulled into a pub. I wasn't sure what he was doing there. Why did he lie to me about this? As I quietly studied him at the bar, my greatest suspicions were clear. He was meeting a woman. I remained there, stunned, as the woman's back appeared familiar to me. The mystery woman then moved to sit in front of him, and my eyes widened in surprise as I realized it was my stepsister, Karen. I could feel my legs giving out from shock, and I nearly fainted in front of the bar. While spying on them, I noticed my husband and Karen holding hands and smiling lovingly at one another. The understanding hit me like a gut punch, and I had an intense want to vomit. The overwhelming contempt, along with the betrayal, left me with a range of feelings, wondering how to respond to the extent of his deception. I recall leaving the bar in a trance, hoping Jerry wouldn't catch me. That night was the most difficult one of my life. I don't think I've sobbed this much since my dog died last year. It was terrible to realize that the person I intended to spend the rest of my life with was cheating on me with my own stepsister. For some perspective on my stepsister, my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mother married her new husband, Harry. Harry had a daughter from his previous marriage, Karen. Karen and I hit it off right away, despite our 4-year age difference. However, our relationship began to deteriorate as I became aware of her ability to manipulate others. She showed to be a master of deception, easily manipulating any circumstance to her benefit. Karen's manipulative abilities were unrivaled, whether it was lying to our parents to evade punishments or misleading total strangers without thinking twice. Karen was constantly jealous of me, despite the fact that we both came from shattered homes. No matter how hard I tried, she never liked me. As we grew older and eventually went to college, I saw less of her. I received a full-ride scholarship and enjoyed my college years, making new friends, trying new classes, and relishing the freedom of youth. I started coming home less and less and eventually stopped talking to Karen, except at family gatherings. Even though I kept my distance from Karen, she continued to be mean to me over the years. She would make subtle but nasty remarks about my appearance whenever we were alone at family gatherings. Whether it was a criticism about my wardrobe or a sneaky suggestion about how I should go to the gym more regularly, her words were always intended to undermine my confidence. I always tried to disregard these comments as much as possible. Karen didn't stop there. She would frequently be overly nice with my husband, who was then my boyfriend. She would make comments to him about how he deserved someone more attractive or how amazing his gym images were. Jerry used to look visibly embarrassed and flush when she complimented him. I always assumed it was just Karen being Karen. She was always inappropriate with everyone I dated and introduced to my family. Since my marriage to Jerry, she had toned down her flirty behavior, and I never gave it any attention. But after seeing them together tonight in the pub, I was convinced that this had been going on for a while. They appeared to be comfy and familiar with one another. When Jerry came back that night, I pretended to be asleep. He reeked of liquor and sweat and didn't even try to hide it. His arrogant demeanor hinted at his growing arrogance. He had begun to believe that he could just get away with anything like this. I lay awake all night worrying about my next steps. Before Jerry awoke, I discreetly removed his phone from our bedroom to check through it. Checking his messages, calls, emails, and images, I meticulously documented proof by taking shots using my own phone. That morning, after Jerry had left for work, I decided to drive to my mother's house because I felt she was the only person who could console me. My stepfather was at work, so I felt I could speak with my mother in private. When I told my mother about my husband's romance with my stepsister, she was as startled as I was. She almost didn't believe me until I presented all the proof. She was outraged that Jerry and Karen could perform such a heinous act. My mother, being the rock she is, instantly planned to confront them in front of everyone. I could understand how upset she was since she had always treated Karen as if she were her own daughter when we were younger. We couldn't comprehend how my own stepsister could stab me in the back like this. We devised a plan to invite our close family members to supper at my place over the weekend. My mother advised me to keep my lips shut and not tell Jerry about it. Everyone arrived at the gathering looking refreshed and pleased. We all ate supper together, and while people drank wine, I looked at my mother and nodded, signifying that it was time. She understood and stood up to retrieve the projector. I clinked my glass to grab everyone's attention. "Thank you all for joining us tonight," I began, my voice firm despite the tempest of emotions within me. "I've called you all here for a special reason, something I've been struggling with for a long time. I want you to pay attention to the projector because I have a surprise for you." Curiosity filled the room as my family and friends focused their attention on the projection screen my mother had set up the gadget. And I took a deep breath, preparing to reveal the awful truth. I connected it to my phone and started scrolling through the photographs and messages I'd saved from my husband's phone. The room fell silent as everyone focused on the television. The first image appeared, showing Jerry and Karen in an intimate stance. Gasps and murmurs echoed around the room. Everyone glanced at it, bewildered. "This is not easy for me, but I felt you all needed to know the truth," I said, my voice steady. "These pictures and messages are evidence of an affair between my husband, Jerry, and my stepsister, Karen." The room erupted with amazement, indignation, and shock as they witnessed the evidence. Their eyes widened and their jaws dropped. My mother's expression was a mix of rage and sorrow, and I could feel the tension rising. She stood beside me, holding my hand, silently reassuring me that she had my back. I continued scrolling through the devastating letters, revealing the extent of the betrayal. As I divulged more, everyone's shock morphed into palpable fury. I turned to face Jerry and Karen, who were sitting in startled silence. Jerry's face flushed with guilt, while Karen, formally manipulative and shrewd, appeared little and vulnerable. The room appeared to vibrate with the combined wrath of those present. My mother stepped forward, her voice stern and full of disappointment. "How could you do this to our family? To your spouse? Your sister?" she demanded, her gaze fixed on Jerry and Karen. My stepfather looked directly at Karen and asked whether what I had revealed was accurate. Karen fell into tears, unwilling to confront him. The weight of his remarks appeared to crush her. Other family members expressed their own disbelief in fury. Some people exchanged looks and shook their heads, while others murmured harsh remarks to one another. Jerry and Karen sat there, unable to justify their actions in the face of incriminating evidence and furious emotions. The room pulsated with the weight of the truth, and my heart, though heavy, felt strangely relieved. The secret was out, and the lie was exposed for all to see. I spoke up again, addressing the audience. I didn't come to you all here simply to expose them. I also wanted to let you know that I'm divorcing Jerry. If Karen wants my husband, she may have him. I appreciate everyone's compassion and support during this tough time. As the shock evolved to solidarity, the entire room rallied in my favor. Friends and family sent words of consolation and condemnation to Jerry and Karen. Jerry's face turned scarlet, and he walked away humiliated. Karen followed him, evidently looking for an excuse to get out of the situation. My mother held me, and I started crying. I had kept this agony hidden inside me all along, and suddenly it was coming out. In the months after this tragedy, I found myself emotionally exhausted, unable to muster the strength to get out of bed. The weight of the betrayal, along with the tiredness of innumerable tears, had left me feeling like a hollow shell of myself. Sleep had become both a haven and an escape from my harsh life. I kicked Jerry out of our house while we worked through our divorce. It was a long and difficult path, but I knew I wanted to get divorced from him as soon as possible. 2 days ago, following months of legal proceedings, the court granted us our wish. We were formally separated. I was overjoyed and spent the day with my mother, shopping and eating ice cream. For the first time in years, I felt liberated and free. That evening, when we were seated and watching a movie at my mother's house, my stepfather entered the room looking upset. My mother asked him what was wrong, but he looked at me with worry. I sat up straight and asked him what occurred. He asked if I had seen Karen's recent Facebook post. I shook my head and promptly unlocked my phone, looking for her profile. With bated breath, I went on her profile to see her most recent picture with Jerry. They were smiling and looked at each other with love. She captioned it, "So happy to be engaged." As I read the caption, my breath came to a stop. Then I realized she was wearing a ring. I was very stunned, to say the least. My mother, who was staring at me curiously, seized the phone from my grasp and cried out in surprise, understanding that Karen was truly marrying Jerry. I can't recall what transpired the rest of the night. Overwhelmed by shock and amazement, I sunk back into the couch, my mind whirling with a barrage of emotions. The room seemed to press in on me as I wrestled with the truth of the situation. My mother, who was similarly astonished, attempted to console me, but words failed us both. As if things weren't awful enough, my stepfather received a call from Karen. She was presumably calling to tell him about the news. I asked him to put her on speaker so I could hear what she had to say. My stepfather nodded and took up the phone. He calmly listened as Karen raved about her engagement and how excited she was to marry Jerry. I listened to her words, devastated and absolutely empty inside. My stepdad then furiously interrupted her. "Karen, what you did today is not only disrespectful and hurtful to your stepsister, but it will have far-reaching consequences for the entire family." Karen answered, apparently upset by his reaction. "I don't understand, Dad. Jerry and I are in love and we're getting married. What's wrong with celebrating that?" My stepdad chided me. "What's wrong, Karen, is the way you've gone about it. You had an affair, and you think that's okay? Your actions have caused immense pain to someone you should consider family. Instead of being respectful and understanding, you are now flaunting your engagement in front of her and the rest of us, without a thought for the consequences." Hearing his remarks, I burst into tears while my mother consoled me. I suppose this is when Karen learned my stepfather wasn't alone. She asked if I was in the room and he confirmed. Karen then began pleading with me for a conversation. My stepfather glanced at me curiously, so I took the phone from him. I started asking her whether she realized what she was getting herself into. Karen smirked when she heard my voice and informed me she knew what she was getting into. She went on to suggest that I shouldn't be sobbing about Jerry because we were officially split and he was now free to marry her. As if that wasn't enough, Karen dropped another bombshell. Jerry and she wanted me to attend their wedding and bless them on their new path. Hearing her remarks, I felt a mixture of shock, rage, and incredulity. They wanted me to present a mask of acceptance, togetherness, and happiness when, in truth, I was dealing with the shattered shards of my own heart. The entire event felt like a sick joke on me. She began discussing how much it would mean to them if I could give a speech on their big day, indicating to everyone that I was fine with their wedding. I was stunned and at a loss for words. Without hesitation, my mother grabbed the phone from my grasp and addressed Karen directly. She stated unequivocally that Karen's actions were abhorrent and represented a new low. Karen responded angrily, stating that she and Jerry were in love and demanding that the family accept their relationship. I left my parents to deal with Karen and went to the guest bedroom, where I closed myself in and cried. I don't recall anything from the night. The next morning, I awoke angry and determined. Karen's audacious deeds kindled a fire within me. Instead than letting this knowledge devastate me, I resolved to turn the tables. I knew I had to tackle it head-on and come out stronger. I wasn't going to let them take away my happiness and mental tranquility. I had a plan in my head and was determined to make Karen regret inviting me. I opened my laptop and began browsing her social media pages. I went through every social media picture she'd ever uploaded. As luck would have it, I eventually located what I was looking for. I convened a family meeting and described my intentions. I would go to Karen and Jerry's engagement party, but not alone. I would be inviting a very important guest to be my plus one, unbeknownst to Jerry and Karen. My mother glanced at me curiously as I mentioned that I would be accompanying her ex-boyfriend from college, Ron. Ron was apparently my stepsister's great love, and she even had a tattoo of his name from when they were dating. They had a painful breakup, and I knew she would be shocked to find me arm in arm with her ex. My mother's eyes widened with recognition. I gave her a cheeky look. She gave me a gentle nod of assent, indicating that she understood my plan. My stepfather, on the other hand, believed this was going too far and warned me not to ruin my stepsister's wedding. So, Reddit, do you think I'm an a-hole for inviting my stepsister's ex to her wedding after she opted to sleep with and marry my husband? Update 1. It's been a few days since I last posted an update to my narrative. Thank you for your comments. I'm astonished how many of you understand and encourage my petty behavior. I'll confess that I wanted to be the bigger person at first, but seeing Karen update more and more of her engagement photos with Jerry officially reinforced my plan, and I set it in motion. I sent Ron a friend request on Facebook and messaged him once he accepted. To my amazement, he replied, and we began communicating. I was open with him about my identification as Karen's stepsister and her soon-to-be husband's ex. I informed him of my intention to invite him as my plus one to their wedding. He appeared surprised and curious about why I was contacting him, but I explained everything. I informed him that Karen had cheated on me with my own husband and was now marrying him. I told him I wanted to take him with me so I could make Karen feel the same way she did for me. After hearing everything, Ron agreed to accompany me. I get aroused thinking about the expressions on Jerry and Karen's faces when they see me at their wedding with Ron. My stepfather has no idea I'm going to take Ron. After our recent chat, in which he discouraged me from bringing him as my plus one to Karen's wedding, I've decided to keep this knowledge private for the time being. I will notify you when the wedding takes place in a few days. Update 2. It's been a month since I last updated. As much as I wanted to update you earlier, a lot has happened in my life, and I needed some time to calm down. As I previously stated, I did take Ron with me to the wedding. When their wedding day arrived, I put on a brave face. I strolled into their wedding in Ron's arms, dressed with confidence. Jerry's eyes widened as he noticed me going in with my special guest. He must have identified Ron as Karen's ex right away. We disregarded his face and pretended to locate our assigned seats. Jerry approached me and aggressively said, "Why are you there with Karen's ex?" But I just grinned. He couldn't make a scene in front of everyone and had to reluctantly walk back up the aisle, angrily staring at me. When it was time for the bride to enter, everyone stood up from their chairs. Karen, dressed in her wedding gown, entered with my stepfather. She recognized me among the guests and smiled triumphantly. I replied with a smirk, refusing to show her my vulnerability. Then she saw Ron standing next to me and stopped dead in her tracks. The music continued, and my stepfather begged her to keep walking, but Karen refused. Her gaze moved between me and him, possibly still perplexed. I held my head high and maintained a calm posture. When my stepfather observed Karen staring at me, He looked up at both me and Ron and must have realized what was going on. The air in the room swelled with tension, and I could feel the guests' collective curiosity growing. Karen surged toward me and came to a halt in front of us, her face distorted with a combustible combination of rage and disbelief. "Congratulations, Karen," I answered calmly. "I'm genuinely happy for you both." "What the hell is this?" she said, her voice angry. I met her gaze with an unwavering stare. "This, Karen, is my plus one," I said with a hint of delight in my voice. "Meet Ron. You remember him, right? From your college days? Or should I mention the tattoo on your hand?" I continued, loving her stunned expression. Ron moved forward, his countenance unreadable. "Hey, Karen. It's good to see you after so many years. We thought we'd share in the joy of your special day," he stated calmly, refusing to be drawn into a confrontation. Karen's cheeks were flushed with wrath. "Joy? You call this joy? You're ruining everything," she exclaimed, her voice breaking through the din of the crowd. The room was stunned into silence. Guests glanced at Karen, their expressions reflecting the horror that filled the air. Whispers and whispers rippled around the room as individuals exchanged incredulous looks. Keeping my cool, I replied, "Well, Karen, it was you who graciously invited me to your wedding with Jerry, so I thought I'd return the favor and bring along your ex, Ron." The room was alive with murmurs and gasps as the visitors assessed the developing drama. Karen's eyes furrowed at me, and she appeared surprised. It was evident she had not expected such a forceful response. Ron, keeping his calm manner, added, "Karen, we're here to celebrate your happiness. There's no need to make this a scene." Karen scoffed. "Celebrate my happiness? How can you even be with someone like her? Are you dating her now?" I smiled at her scorn and, shrugging nonchalantly, responded, "Like I said, you invited me. I'm just here to honor that invitation and wish you and Jerry a lifetime of joy together. What happens between Ron and me should not be your concern, especially since you're about to marry." Karen's rage heightened the tension in the room. Jerry, who was standing at the altar, came running down, pleading with Karen not to cause a commotion so that they could continue their celebration. Karen pulled him away fiercely. Then, out of wrath, she threw her bouquet across the room. The bouquet flew into the air, leaving a trail of petals in its wake before smashing to the ground. Despite the collective gasps, Karen walked out of the theater, her gown trailing behind her in a whirl of white. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving a sensation of astonishment in its wake. The visitors exchanged perplexed looks, unsure how to respond to the unexpected turn of events. Some people made awkward smiles, while others shifted uneasily in their seats. The mood, which had once been festive, was now tense and confusing. Jerry looked at me angrily and opened his mouth to yell, but my mother urged him to shut up after what he had the audacity to put me through. With a smirk, I told Ron that we should depart, and he nodded in accord. The audience erupted in a maelstrom of reactions, including disbelief, indignation, and whispered conversations. I left the venue with my head held high. The weight of betrayal was removed. The world had witnessed my anguish, resilience, and ability to rise above the ashes of a failed marriage. I don't care if people think I went too far because I've never slept with someone behind their back or ended a marriage. I only gave my stepsister a taste of her own medication. Update 3. I am astounded by everyone's response in just a few days since my previous update. I'm delighted to see that the majority of you understand why I did what I did, and I can appreciate some of your unfavorable emotions. Honestly, I have no regrets about what I did. My stepfather informed me that Jerry and Karen had formally ended their relationship. She refused to marry, no matter how hard Jerry begged with her. I'm guessing this suggests she still has feelings for Ron, and seeing him that day must have reminded her of them. I'm not one to take pleasure in the agony of others, but sometimes the only lessons individuals may learn are the repercussions. Jerry has sent me numerous angry missed calls and messages, but I have chosen to block him. My stepfather chastised me for what I did during my stepsister's wedding, and out of respect, I didn't argue with him much. My mother asked me to give him some time and space, and I agreed. In the aftermath, I've decided to focus on rebuilding my life and discovering happiness within myself. As I deal with the uncertainties of life, I will undoubtedly seek therapy, as everyone has suggested. For the time being, I want to focus on my personal development, finding my passions, and only exposing myself to positive influences. Now on to the next story. Story 7. My sister attacked me and stole my boyfriend 6 years ago. Now my parents are attempting to reconcile us by inviting my estranged sister to my bridal shower. My sister is 26 and I 28. After a horrible incident that I will describe in a moment, we haven't spoken for about 6 years. For whatever reason, my parents never discouraged the fierce sibling rivalry that existed between my sister and me as we grew up. They would really encourage us to compete more. In retrospect, I don't think that was a smart move because it caused us to become really envious of one another. Perhaps our relationship would have been better if they had taken care of it sooner rather than later. When we were younger, we could at least occasionally set aside our differences, but as we became older, our animosity for one another increased. When we reached high school, we hardly spoke to one another and we enjoyed it that way. After that, I left for college and only saw my sister when I got home, which was somewhat preferable than always being around someone who was unpleasant. I began dating my fiancé around the time I was to graduate. He finally plucked up the courage to ask me out before I graduated from college, after we had been friends for 3 years. Since I too thought he was great, I said sure. Since we had been friends for years and it didn't seem like a huge deal, I moved in with him after graduation. I brought him home for supper one weekend after we had been dating for 3 months because I wanted to introduce him to my parents. It just so happened that my sister, who had just begun college, had also made the decision to spend the weekend at home. It was already a formula for disaster and we were both there at the time. My life was going really well. I had a lovely boyfriend, a career, and my own apartment. My sister, however, wasn't doing as well. She was angry that she had to settle for her second choice of college after failing to get into her first choice. My parents later told me that she was having a hard time making friends at college, which is why she was coming home so frequently. I could tell my sister wasn't pleased when I presented my boyfriend to my parents in the background. She pouted. I introduced them, even though my partner was aware of my tense connection with her. She instantly turned on her charm as I introduced her. I tried not to be bothered by it, even though it seemed strange. But then things became more bizarre. My sister was very interested in my boyfriend's life and kept attempting to talk to him when we were all sitting around talking. We were both frightened, but we remained silent. Then she went too far and began openly flirting with him in front of me throughout dinner. She wasn't even subtle about it. She was clearly doing it to annoy me. I didn't want my boyfriend to realize how dysfunctional our family was, so I tried to ignore it for a time, but I was at my breaking point. Since he was my lover, I lost my temper and urged my sister to stop, since it was repulsive that she was flinging herself at him in that manner. She simply rolled her eyes and continued to speak to him. I snapped and screamed at her, telling her that he was my visitor and that she should show him respect since she was making him feel uncomfortable. She was only assisting my lover in realizing that there were alternatives to me, and I recall her saying that he deserved better. We began cursing at each other because of the manner she stated it, which really irritated me. She wasn't doing as well as I was, so I dubbed her a loser and stated she was resentful. She was deeply affected by that remark. She pulled me over and slapped me after grabbing my hair across the table. Since we hadn't had a physical altercation since middle school, I was initially too surprised to respond. However, it escalated into a full-fledged fight after she struck me. We were so violent that my boyfriend and our parents had to break us apart. Even though we were both hurt and scratched up by the end, we continued to yell at one another. It was my partner who pulled me away, got me in the car, and drove us home while attempting to reassure me the whole time. That conflict might have lasted much longer if he hadn't been beside me, so I was glad to have him by my side because I was pretty worked up. I completely stopped talking to my sister after this episode. Although we had battled previously, it had never been this vicious. For me, it was the final straw. Since I was already living apart from her, I must admit that I no longer felt compelled to think of her as a member of my family. My parents called me the day following the event to inform me that they had reprimanded my sister. They hoped we could work things out in the end, even if she wasn't prepared to apologize. I informed them that I had no interest in resolving the matter. I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Therefore, I wanted our relationship to stay awful. They attempted to convince me otherwise, but I reminded them they shared some of the responsibility. They had never recognized our fierce sibling rivalry since we were little and had even fostered it. They therefore couldn't be shocked that we didn't want to be together. We got into a fight because they didn't agree with me. They apologized over the phone a few days later and acknowledged their error. It seemed a little meaningless at the moment, but I forgave them. Even though I had already made the decision not to talk to my sister, I didn't want to sever my ties with my parents. It's been 6 years since that happened, and I haven't spoken to my sister since. But as long as they don't pressure me to make amends, I don't mind that my parents and she have a typical relationship. We seldom talk, but I have seen her at family gatherings. We avoid each other even on holidays, and I like it that way. We don't get along, and everyone in the family knows it, but no one understands why. They only know that we got into a fight, and I haven't changed anything because neither of us looked good after it. I kept it a secret from my family for over 6 years, but during my bridal shower, I finally revealed the truth. In addition to my bridesmaids, my maid of honor had only invited close relatives and friends. Since we weren't adhering to the custom of just inviting women, my fiancé was also present. I wanted everyone I cared about to be there. Nevertheless, my parents chose to invite my estranged sister as well, for whatever reason. Sincerely, I have no idea what they were thinking, but I was taken aback when they entered with her. I was surprised to discover that my sister appeared just as surprised to see me. When they walked in, the room became quiet and there seemed to be a standoff. My parents approached me and spoke to us both. After what seemed like a lifetime, they said that a lot had changed in the 6 years following the tragedy. Above all, they expected us to make amends because they thought we were older and more mature. Her face made it obvious that my sister had been duped by her parents to get her there. I informed my parents they had no right to do this on such a significant day for me. Before she could say anything, I gently requested that they go with my sister. My parents wouldn't leave, so I tried to maintain my dignity so as not to ruin the occasion. They advised me to move on from the past. They gave the impression that nothing important had occurred, as though it would be simple for me to go on, which annoyed me. I reenacted the entire episode to help them remember it and to make sure everyone else knew exactly what had happened 6 years prior. I then inquired if anyone in the room felt that I could simply let go of this. If I had married someone else, it would have been a different story, but I was marrying the same man with whom my sister had openly flirted when I first brought him home to meet the family. She had shamelessly done it in front of me, treating him as though he were a participant in a tournament that he had never consented to. Above all, she attacked me first after doing all of that, simply because I called her out on her actions and labeled her a loser. I had never had someone attempting to physically harm me in that way before, so it was traumatic for me. Despite everything, she acted as if nothing had happened and never apologized to me in the previous 6 years. I didn't feel obligated to forgive her or move on from the past. I never allowed someone like her back into my life because I felt it was more vital to cling to the past. My parents' assumption that they could simply bring her to my bridal shower and expect us to comply was absurd. Fortunately, my sister realized her mistake and left before my parents could dispute much further. My mother followed her, presumably to appease her, as I assumed she wasn't pleased about being misled either. My father stayed with me for a short while, but I informed him that since he had disappointed me, I didn't want to talk to him just now. He became irritated and accused me of being irrational, claiming that I was acting like a brat and that it made no sense to hold on to something that had happened 6 years prior. Although I didn't think I was being a brat, I told him to go since I didn't want to argue with him. He also left after a few minutes. After that, I was so overwhelmed that I had to take a few minutes off to gather myself. Fortunately, my fiancé and maid of honor supported me, and after a little while, I was back to my usual self. Everyone else cooperated, seeing that I needed a diversion and didn't want to think about my sister or dad. And we resumed the celebration as if nothing had happened. After the encounter, my fiancé and I went home, and we didn't discuss the situation further. I was okay with the fact that I hadn't heard from my parents since this incident, which occurred roughly 5 days ago. I felt that we should spend some time apart after what they did. Although I didn't anticipate hearing from them right away, they did, and not to offer an apology, but rather to hold me responsible for my sister's predicament. My mother called me this morning on the phone. As soon as I responded, she instructed me to contact my aunt and ensure that she offered my sister the position she had been discussing. I urged my mother to back up since she seemed agitated and panicked, and I didn't know what she was talking about. She went on to explain that my sister had been out of work for roughly 6 months due to layoffs and downsizing at her prior employer. She had to move back in with our parents a few weeks ago after realizing she could no longer afford the rent. She had been searching for a job, but she had not been able to locate one that she liked or that paid enough. My mother had discussed this with my aunt, who was launching a new company. Because my sister had been working in marketing before, my aunt had first chosen to appoint her as head of marketing. However, my aunt stopped replying and eventually revoked the invitation following the bridal shower episode in which I told her what had transpired 6 years prior. Since I had always been my aunt's favorite, I didn't find it unexpected and I believed it to be a plausible explanation. When my mother forwarded the message my aunt had sent her to me, my aunt stated in her reply that it was evident my sister had severe anger management problems based on her understanding of the incident I described. My aunt wasn't pleased that she hadn't even offered an apology, not even during the bridal shower. Furthermore, my aunt stated that she had first chosen to hire my sister because she was related, but that she had interviewed a better, competent applicant for the job a few weeks prior. She would now offer the position to the more competent applicant since she had changed her mind. That seemed totally reasonable to me, and I was genuinely glad my aunt had a change of heart. I informed my mother that I couldn't do anything about it after reading her message because, as someone who has seen the negative effects of nepotism in the job, I didn't want my aunt to be the type of person who makes things worse. Otherwise, my sister would have been employed because of nepotism. The real reason my sister wasn't hired was that it appeared my aunt had discovered someone more suited for the position. Since this was my aunt's business life and I didn't want to cross any lines, I informed her I wouldn't talk to her in an attempt to destroy my sister's reputation and image in front of the family. My mother began to lose her head and began screaming at me. Since I hadn't discussed the issue in years, she suggested I didn't need to bring it up during my bridal shower, even though I had started the argument by calling my sister a loser, especially knowing it would hit her where it hurt. She thought I purposefully painted her as unstable and nasty in order to garner the family's sympathy and make myself appear to be the nice guy. For the record, I wasn't hiding anything when I recounted the incident. I had stated that I had labeled her a loser prior to her attack. Even yet, I don't believe that calling her derogatory names excused her physical altercation. It was just unjust for my mother to say that I brought up the incident in order to harm my sister's reputation. I blocked my parents and hung up after giving it some thought. I'm not sure if discussing the incident was a wise decision. My mother said over the phone that I hadn't given my sister a chance, despite the fact that she had evolved over the years. That was pretty rude of me, she said. I brought up my sister's attack on me 6 years ago, which resulted in her losing a job offer. Am I correct in bringing this up? Date 1. Hi Reddit. Before I discuss the events that followed my initial post, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who took the time to leave a remark. I appreciate your nice words and suggestions very much. Well, let's talk about what transpired after I blocked my parents. My parents were unable to reach me because my sister had been barred for the previous 6 years. They chose to come see me as they had no other method to get in touch with me. I truly don't have time to handle all of this because I'm getting married in a few weeks. I already have a lot on my plate since I had just returned from work and my fiancé, and I needed to travel right away for a last-minute wedding dress fitting. I told them to leave when they arrived. We were going to go, but they had arrived at the wrong time, and I knew that if we opened the door, they would find a way to continue chatting and irritate me. They didn't go even after I threatened to contact the police. To be honest, I didn't want to call the police since I thought it would be excessive. Being the type of person who phones the police for everything was not something I wanted to be. We agreed to let them in, give them a cursory hearing, and then leave after speaking with my fiancé. After making up our minds, we invited them inside, opened the door, and ordered them to hurry up because we had other places to be. Fortunately, my folks didn't mince words. They said that my aunt had withdrawn her offer to hire my sister due to my actions at my bridal shower. They insisted that I talk to my aunt and make sure my sister found employment because, in theory, I was at fault. I didn't want to repeat myself because it was the same argument. I informed them that I couldn't do anything about it because I had already spoken to my mother about it over the phone. They knew I was busy and I'm getting married in a few weeks, so it seemed senseless to come to my place and discuss it again. My sister then cut me off. They came for other reasons, she claimed, besides the job offer. I was taken aback by that, as it was our first conversation in 6 years. She went on to tell me that it was really because of her that they were there. She felt compelled to apologize to me. Since I'm still unsure of how I felt at the time, I genuinely don't know what to say to you all. Since I plainly don't trust her, I had serious doubts about her intentions. I chose to be direct with her as a result. I questioned if she truly wanted to apologize or if she was just there to do so because she believed I could help her land the job. I informed her that I couldn't help her. Therefore, there was no use in wasting her breath if it was only about the job. She appeared a little taken aback by my candor, but she was able to explain that she had come to apologize and that our parents were there to discuss the job. It was obvious they hadn't talked about this because even my parents appeared astonished when I looked at them. My sister, though, seemed unconcerned. She said that she was merely there to apologize and had no interest in the position. Over the previous 6 years, she had given her actions against me a lot of thought, but she had always found a reason not to say sorry. However, she was unable to deny the reality that she had mistreated me. After the bridal shower, my fiancé and I were still having a hard time processing everything, but I could tell she was serious based on her tone and conduct. She informed me that she had been resentful of me since she was a child because she felt like she had to compete with me. Since nothing mattered in the real world, she understood that she had wasted her entire youth and adolescence competing with me. She felt bad about it because we could have been friends, especially because I had made multiple attempts to be her buddy. She acknowledged that she had pushed me away because she always thought of me as a rival. I had felt the same way, so hearing her utter all of it was crazy. I'm embarrassed to say that as she related her story, I began to cry. After that, she spoke to my fiancé and expressed regret for the way she had treated him during their one and only encounter. She acknowledged that the apology was long overdue and that she had been so preoccupied with defeating me that she had failed to recognize the type of person she had become. She didn't wait for our response once she was done. She merely stated that we didn't have to pardon her. She only wanted to let it out, and now that she had, she would stop bothering us. My parents, my fiancé, and I were the only people left in the room when she left. Since none of us had anticipated it, we were all sitting in awe, trying to comprehend what had just transpired. My fiancé and I went out for my fitting after my parents eventually left without a word. We didn't talk about any of it until we got home. We only began discussing my sister's remarks approximately 30 minutes ago. Even though it took her 6 years, I felt that her apology was extraordinarily mature. She meant every word based on her actions. My fiancé and I are currently debating whether or not to forgive her. Since we haven't even finished processing it, it's too soon to tell. We're tempted to get in touch with her later and express our forgiveness. I need more time before I can reassure her that everything is fine, even though I've already unblocked her. Even though it took her many years to realize we could have been friends, that is something I'm truly happy about. Update 2. Hello, I just realized that in my previous update, I neglected to express what I intended to do with relation to my parents. To be honest, I forgot about it because I was so preoccupied with my sister's predicament. In any case, my folks haven't gotten in touch with us since our previous visit a few days ago. We're going to keep avoiding them because I don't think they're sorry for anything. The way my sister and I ended up together is one of the many things I hold my parents responsible for. They still had the opportunity to be better parents, but they blew it. They have consistently made it all but impossible for me to maintain them in my life, despite my best efforts. We've fought and argued a lot over the last 6 years, and I've always tried to forgive them, but I'm at a loss now. People who obviously don't care about my feelings or even my sister's if I'm being honest, can't continue to be excused. In the end, we won't communicate with them, and I doubt they'll come to my wedding. However, my fiancé and I want to get in touch with them in a few days to inform them that they are no longer invited at the wedding, just to be safe. Update 3. Hello everyone. Last week I got married. Everything was lovely and fantastic, exactly as I had envisioned, and I had a great time. My parents were not present, as was to be expected. My spouse and I didn't even have to make contact with them. They informed me via email that there had been a huge mistake and that they would not be attending. They said my sister and I had begun to demonize them and that they didn't need to be reminded that we blamed them for the tense relationship. They said that despite their best efforts to be excellent parents to us, they now intend to take some time off and live their separate lives without worrying about their daughters because we don't value their presence in our lives. I mean, if that's what they want, I'm okay with it. Happier news. A few days after I published my most recent update, I contacted my sister. I told her that I would love for her to attend my wedding and that I accepted her apology. It was a very joyful day, and she kindly accepted my invitation and attended the wedding. It's absurd to think that I would have sneered at my parents a few months ago if they had informed me that my sister would attend my wedding instead of them. But now we are here. In any case, I'm glad everything went without a hitch and that I'm at last getting back on track with my sister. This is sufficient for me for the time being, but perhaps my parents will change their minds and apologize to us. Life has never been better, and my husband and I will soon be departing for our honeymoon. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Entitled SIL demanded I gift her a baby for her 30th birthday. So I exposed her ridiculousness and immaturity to everyone on social media. I'm not sure if anyone can relate to my dilemma or has even heard of it. Feels strange to even write this. It's about my MIL and SIL, who are pampered brats. SIL is 29 and a single woman. Well, that's not the issue. The issue is that she is an entitled woman who will not accept no as an answer. I am 37 years old and have been married to my 40-year-old husband for 12 years. We have 2 children, a 9-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. Despite our blissful marriage, touch wood, my pain in the neck is my overly theatrical ML and my overly spoiled SIL. Before I tell you more about my position, let me paint a picture of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They are social butterflies, similar to upper-class rich ladies in soap operas who spend their days at salons and massage parlors and their evenings at bars, chatting about other useless women. They exist in their own fantasy universe. They do not work. All they do is shop and chat. My FIL is busy generating money, while these women are busy spending it. FIL is essentially a non-existent part of the family, or rather, a cash cow. There's a rumor that FIL has a mistress and MIL is aware of it, so they have an unspoken agreement. He fulfills all of their demands without question in exchange for having a mistress. I am not sure how true it is, but given FIL's status in the family, it appears likely. Otherwise, no sensible man would be silent about MIL and SIL's foolishness. Now back to my sad existence. Last week, MIL called and invited me out to lunch on a Wednesday afternoon. I wanted to say no, but she hadn't requested to meet with me in a long time, so I suggested an alternate schedule. I suggested that we meet for dinner in the evening, but they are busy women at night, spending time with friends at the gaming parlor. So we decided to meet on Saturday afternoon. I arrived in my usual attire, whereas she wore a completely shimmering black dress. What a great pick for an afternoon lunch. She critiqued my fashion sense the moment she saw me. After the light talk, she inquired about what we intended to give my SIL for her 30th birthday. I was perplexed because her 29th birthday was just a few months ago. I mentioned her next birthday is around 10 months away. She laughed and continued, "That's why we need to plan ahead of time. Remember what happened last time? She was dissatisfied with the gifts you gave her, and her birthday was spoiled." I swallowed hard and said, "Yeah, of course we spoiled her birthday because we gave her a normal $250 dress and not a premium Zara one with a matching sapphire necklace." She went on to elaborate, "To avoid upsetting her this time, I have thought of the perfect gift which you guys should give her." So what was that? A baby. That's right. She wanted me to make a baby and give it to her entitled brat of a daughter. I was appalled. How could anyone believe that someone would ask for a baby as a gift? I could not understand what she was saying. I had to ask her several times if I had heard it correctly. She responded, "Yes. I want you to have a baby and give it to Stacy, Sael, as her 30th birthday present." I flipped out and said, "Why do you think I would do that?" She cried, "To compensate for your inadequate present this time. You wrecked her 29th birthday, and now you owe her this." I stood up and stated, "I don't owe anyone anything. I'm not a broodmare who would breed a child and give it to her." I stormed out of the restaurant. On the way home, I stopped to pick up my son from his friend's house. When I got home, my husband questioned what had happened between me and Mil. I asked him what he'd been told. My husband is aware of Mil and Sil's tantrums, so he does not take them seriously. He explained, "Mil called and said she suggested a present for Stacy's birthday, which you refused, and now she's mad at you." I responded, "Yes, she wanted your child to be given as a present to your sister. Do you want that?" For a brief while, he assumed I was joking and making everything up. He was laughing and rolling on the floor as I told him the full story. Then, alarmed, he asked, "What is she even smoking?" I made it obvious to him that I would not accept her demands. My husband reassured me, "We are not having any more children, and we are definitely not giving one to Stacy." The following day was Sunday. We were both at home, relaxing on the couch and enjoying our day off, when Mil arrived at our house. I excused myself and went to my room, explaining that I was exhausted and needed to rest. Mil stopped me and said she came here to apologize for the previous day and begged me to hear her out. I was relieved that she had finally come to her senses. She apologized for not providing enough context in her request. She went on to explain, "You know Stacy is turning 30 next year and has been unmarried for a long time. It is driving her insane. She requires a distraction in life, and having a baby would be an excellent way to keep her happy. First and foremost, a newborn is a fully fledged human being, not cotton candy brought in to keep children happy. If the spoiled brat requires distractions or a purpose in life, why doesn't she find a job? But no, the princess does not work. She doesn't move a finger about the house. By the way, she still lives with my in-laws because she has no income. She avoids home duties because her nails would get chipped. If you meet her, you'll notice that her brain hasn't developed since her 14th birthday. Her room's paint is still pink, and she has a large collection of pink outfits. She knows nothing about the world around her. She will be unfamiliar with the capital city or the country's president. All she knows is that a large sum of money suddenly arrives on her card, which she recklessly spends." I responded, "If Stacy is so keen on having a baby, why doesn't she adopt one?" Mil laughed and said, "Don't be lazy. It's been a while since you were pregnant, so get the equipment back to work. Adopted newborns pose a significant risk. Who knows what diseases run in their family? It's safe with you folks. Can't you do this for your Sil?" I looked at my spouse as if to plead. "Would you please say something?" He chuckled and called Mil's suggestion stupid. He stated that I had a lot of motherly responsibilities as well as a career to manage and that I couldn't have another baby in the thick of it all. He also commented on how strange it would be if her brother was the father of her child. My mother-in-law simply replied, "Why not? Maria's sister-in-law was a surrogate for her daughter. So what's the big deal if your wife does the same for Stacy?" I was like, "Wait a minute, that was surrogacy. Maria's sister-in-law carried Maria's daughter's child because she was unable to conceive owing to medical reasons. Here, things are not the same. If Stacy had a medical concern, we might have offered to help her carry the baby. The situation here is different. You're asking us to make a baby as if we were a machine." My partner had advised, "Stacy should find a guy, settle down with him, and have her own family rather than complicating the situation here." Mil began sobbing and lamented, "My little girl has tried so many times to find a man, but you know how awful men are these days." She pointed at me and said, "You are a lucky woman to have my son, but sweetheart, not everyone is as fortunate as you. Stacy can't be with just any regular man, you know. She has great expectations. The man should treat her like we do." I responded, "Yeah, of course. The last man Stacy dumped was because he didn't buy her an overly expensive Gucci bag. Mael attempted to justify her pampered princess, but I jumped up and stated, I'm nauseated from this discussion and need to relax. Once more, we will not have a child to give Asael as a birthday present. After a time, my spouse entered the bedroom. He cuddled me and attempted to lighten my melancholy. I asked him what he had told his mother. He told me that he had made it plain that we would not have any more children and that they should quit harassing us. He claimed Mael stormed out of the house in rage. Can you imagine how ridiculous this situation is? I want to bang my head against a wall or bang theirs to make them see sense. Update 1. Hello everyone, and thank you for connecting with my post. Some of the comments were just amusing. You're correct in stating that Stacy is psychologically something. I feel the same way. Both Stacy and Mael need to have their heads checked. Perhaps they were buried under pounds of makeup LOL. If there had been any other regular person, they would have backed off after the previous talk. But now we're dealing with two maniacs. Until recently it was just Mael, but Stacy has also gotten involved. I tell you, she is 100 times more difficult to talk to since she does not grasp logic. As I said in my previous report, Mael wrecked my Sunday with her baby-making pitch. A week later, on the following Sunday, bam, she appears again with her adorable doll. They seem to have promised to destroy my day off. Stacy entered wearing a skirt and a comfortable blouse. This was the first time I had seen her without her very tiny clothes, and her hair and nails were flawless. Mael pointed and asked, Do you see? Stacy has already begun dressing like a mama. So this was the cause for her new fashion sense? Do they truly believe that changing your clothes will make you a mommy? Change your clothes and you're ready to be a mother? Stacy smirked at me and replied, I'm in whatever I do. Then she went to hug her older brother as if she hadn't seen him in a long time. Remember I said she acts like a 14-year-old sweetie pie? She cried as if we were all standing far apart. When is the good news coming? My husband appeared foolish and asked, What's the good news? She smirked and added, I know you want to surprise me with your kid for my 30th birthday, but Mom is a spoiler. I now know what your plan is. I'm overjoyed to be the mother of a gorgeous little girl. I have already started buying for her. My husband interrupted her mid-sentence, and I'm glad he did because I was going to slap her skull. He said, That is not true. We're not having a baby, much less giving one as a present. For a long time, she assumed he was merely attempting to mask the surprise. How delusional can you be? When she discovered she wasn't getting a kid as a gift, she scowled and screamed at me, Why not? You have always been harsh to me. This is your time to set things right. Come on. Get a nice tiny baby doll for me. I answered, Stacy, we don't run a baby supply company where you can purchase a gorgeous baby girl and receive one. Do you even know how babies are made? She relaxed and confessed, You know, I've always wanted a baby girl. I have so much love in me that I want to shower it on my baby. You're all depriving me of that. That baby will be really lucky to have me as her mother. I will raise her to be a confident and accomplished woman. I am confident that you will not be disappointed. You see, that is why I said you couldn't reason with her. This is mindless. First and foremost, do you believe she is in the appropriate mind to have a baby? She doesn't even realize that I have no control over my baby's gender. You don't get to choose as you would with a lipstick palette. Second, this witch has never carried a baby in her arms. When my children were babies, she used to chase them away, afraid they might spit and stain her hair and clothes. Even now, she won't let my daughter near her because she's terrified she'll damage her nails or hair. Can anyone envision this mother changing a diaper or swaddling a baby in the middle of the night? Furthermore, I cannot go through a torturous 9 months of pregnancy, then experience the agonizing pain of birth, only to hand over my child to this spoiled princess and watch her transform the baby into a miniature version of herself. Stacy was still rambling on about how she'd be an excellent mother, but I had lost myself in the sentiments I'd expressed above. Suddenly, I stood up and said, Look, Stacy, I know you're going to hate me for this. You already hate me, so it doesn't matter. I am not going to have a baby for you. Do you understand it? Or should I write it down for you? Because it appears that you and your mother have lost both your hearing and your mind. My husband motioned for me to calm down, but I had lost my mind with their madness. I told them I didn't want to talk about it any further, and if they kept bothering me, I'd block them from my residence. I went into my room and closed the door. I'm not sure if I overstepped my boundaries, but look at them. I cannot put into words how toxic they are. My husband tried to indicate that I was being too outspoken, but I was so upset with everyone that he didn't dare say anything else. He just informed me that his mother and sister had called him a simp and then departed. I don't care what people say, he has to quit being a nice guy to everyone. I was expecting another showdown this Sunday, but it's been quiet so far, and I hope it continues. I just want this inconvenience to cease. Update 2. Oh no, how could I have thought things would end so peacefully? Following the explosion, the next 2 weeks were quiet and tranquil. I felt so at ease without Emil showing up at our door. But God, it wasn't silent at all. There was a flurry of activity going on online that I was completely unaware of. Stacy had been defaming me on social media, alleging that I was taking away her chance to become a mother. She describes herself as a beauty guru and posts makeup tutorials. She has a respectable following on her account. I'm not extremely active on social media because I have a life outside of the screen, with 2 children and a real job. Anyway, Stacy said that her brother was game to have a baby for her, but I denied it. She stated that she has always wanted to be a mother, but because she is unmarried, she has had no luck with adoption. Such a lie. They never even attempted to adopt, and if they had, I'm sure she would have failed the adoption interview. Stacy said a lot of things to put me in a negative light. She said I was denying her a kid because she was unmarried and I held conservative, old-fashioned attitudes. I wanted to say that I was denying her the kid because she was stupid. I had no idea about her hatred campaign until my husband's aunt called and asked why I was doing this to Stacy. That was when I read everything. It was amusing how her foolish friends and relatives made me out to be the villain. Even if what she said is accurate, I have the right to say no. It is my body and I may refuse. My husband encouraged me to ignore it, that it will pass like a season. I originally ignored it, but how can you not read public comments made against you? We are not that thick-skinned. I understood Stacy saw my quiet as weakness and was trash-talking me even more. My buddies and I devised a strategy to make Stacy pay for her actions. I called her and said, I'm very concerned about the web campaign you're waging against me. The negativity is destroying my reputation. So I'm considering having a child for you. Yeah, I said it to please her ego. My reputation is ruined. I don't care what she or her foolish followers think of me, but she deserved to be put in her proper place. She's been a pain in my side for a long time, and it's finally time to deal with her. I responded, Stacy, why don't you come over, and we can discuss a few things before we proceed? She was ecstatic, believing she had defeated me. When she came to my place, I replied, since I've agreed to your demands, why don't we go live and tell everyone you're having a baby soon? It would help to clear up any poor reviews, and you'd get a nice viewing time. She agreed right away because she enjoys social networking. We went live, and I said, I have agreed to have a baby for Stacy, so let's take some questions for the future mom. Stacy was so pleased with her victory that she had no idea what she was heading into. I responded, so, Stacy, what plans do you have for the baby? She giggled and exclaimed, oh, I'm so delighted to be a mother to a baby girl. I had already started buying for her. I'm going to make her look like a celebrity from the moment she's born. I will never leave her without makeup. She will always have to appear perfect and acceptable. I didn't explicitly state that no one could guarantee she'd have a baby girl, but I let the audience educate her on the subject. Her response had already outraged many people, and the video was filled with harsh comments and trolls. Stacy was so focused on expressing herself that she missed everything else. I replied, that's lovely, Stacy, but what about when the baby is fussy and crying? How are you going to handle that? She responded, the girls in our family do not cry, do they? I mean, I have never seen your daughter weep. She's always well-dressed and calm. Without making her feel silly, I said, that's because you've only seen her for a short time. Every baby cries. Every tidy, well-dressed infant is the result of many hours of hard effort by the mother. Her answer was, then you can take care of the crying, and when she's calm, I'll dress her up in cute frilly dresses and matching necklaces and tiaras, and I'll put makeup on her. I couldn't stop giggling and told Stacy, babies cry all day and night. Are you suggesting you'll bring her to me every time she cries and then take her back after she's finished? She exclaimed, yes, that's correct. Why not? I could no longer pretend and let out an evil laugh. She responded, are you trying to scare me off? How difficult could it be? You did it and I can do it too. I am so much better than you. I have more followers and a better fashion sense than you. She abruptly ended the live video while ranting. She was angry at me for grilling her on live camera, but she had no idea how much damage it had done to her. She stated, we're game for the baby, as she walked away. I smiled calmly. My friend taped the entire live session. I wrote a lengthy essay detailing how Stacy and her mother had been pressuring me to have a child and give it to her as a birthday present. I methodically underlined all of the red flags that indicated why Stacy should not be trusted with a child. Her responses during the live stream were enough to let folks realize what an airhead woman she is. I stated all of the additional things regarding Stacy that were not included in her responses. I tagged her in the post and shared it after midnight, thinking the princess would be sleeping. She'd wake up the next day, and by the time she untagged herself, thousands of people would have seen the message. As expected, my post went viral. Owing to Stacy's followers, tagging her in the post allowed her fans to troll her extensively with comments such as, how could someone with such a low IQ even exist on this planet? A single comment said, forget about being a mother. This woman shouldn't be left alone on the streets. Following this internet argument, my mother-in-law called me. Before she could say anything, I told her, before you say anything, please know that you are being recorded, and I will not hesitate to post it publicly. My God. She hung up and did not call back. I didn't hear from the pampered princess again because I warned MAL that I was going to record all of their calls and conversations, as well as any attempts to make trouble at my place. It was quite satisfying to put them in their place. My husband and I are still giggling while reading the haters' comments on Stacy's video. It's just hilarious. Now on to the next story. Story 9. My ex-wife divorced me after a personality change. I found out I have a brain tumor. How do I move forward? My name is Andrew, 32 years old. In 2022, the chapter closed on a significant part of my life. My marriage. It wasn't just any marriage. It was a journey filled with love, adventure, and an exceptionally deep connection. Reflecting on it, our relationship wasn't merely between two people. It intertwined with entire families, becoming a testament to the love and bonds we shared. My ex-wife's brother and I were so close that I had the honor of being his best man, an experience that highlighted the depth of our intertwined lives. I met Sarah, my ex-wife, 33 years old, during a time of great optimism and hope. We were young and in love, ready to take on the world together. Our relationship blossomed quickly, fueled by late-night conversations and spontaneous adventures. We spent hours exploring the city together, getting lost in its winding streets and hidden treasures. We laughed, we argued, and we discovered new things about each other every day. It was a time of discovery and growth, a period of intense bonding that laid the foundation for what was to come. One of the defining moments of our early relationship was our trip to Belize. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, fueled by a sense of wanderlust and a desire to experience new cultures together. We found ourselves immersed in the beauty of the Mayan ruins, the ancient stones whispering secrets of a bygone era. It was there, amidst the backdrop of history and romance, that I made the decision to propose to Sarah. Sarah said yes, of course, her eyes sparkling with joy and excitement. In that moment, surrounded by the ancient ruins and the promise of a future together, we felt invincible. We returned home with hearts full of love and dreams of the life we would build together. Looking back on those early days now, it's hard to believe how much has changed. The innocence of our youth has been replaced by the harsh realities of adulthood, and the promise of forever has given way to the harsh reality. Our bond, as beautiful as it was, began to face trials that neither of us could have anticipated. Initially, it was like any other challenge a couple might face, something we believed we could overcome together. Yet, as time passed, the hurdles became more daunting, testing our resilience in ways we never imagined. My mental health began to deteriorate, casting long shadows over our lives. What started as subtle changes in my behavior soon spiraled into something far more severe. In public, I was constantly on edge, plagued by an unshakable feeling of being followed. This paranoia escalated to the point where I became convinced our home was bugged and that police or even government agencies were monitoring me. These weren't fleeting thoughts. They were deeply ingrained beliefs that dictated my actions, leading to a profound sense of fear and isolation. The day my wife, out of sheer desperation and concern, convinced me to go to the emergency room marked a pivotal moment in our story. There, I received a diagnosis that seemed to offer some answers: a psychotic break accompanied by bipolar and schizoaffective disorder. This diagnosis was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provided a name to the chaos that had taken over our lives. But on the other, it brought a new set of challenges and questions about the future. Despite these difficulties, my wife stood by me, embodying patience and compassion. But as time went on, even with treatment, my behavior didn't stabilize. It was as if the essence of who I had always been was slipping away, replaced by someone we both didn't recognize. This transformation wasn't just internal. It manifested in actions that were out of character for me. I started lying and turned to substance abuse, a stark departure from my previous lifestyle of social drinking and the occasional recreational use of weed. It was a downward spiral, one that seemed to pull me further away from the person I once was and the life we had built together. I knew I was treading on thin ice when I started dabbling with drugs behind my wife's back, but somehow the thrill of it all seemed to override any rational thought. Stupid, I know. And now, facing the consequences, I can't help but feel like the biggest jerk on the planet. The day she found out was like a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. I could see the anger bubbling beneath the surface as she stared at me, her eyes narrowing into icy slits. It was the look I never wanted to see directed at me, yet there it was, burning into my soul. She didn't even need to say anything. Her silence spoke volumes, echoing with disappointment, betrayal, and hurt. My stomach churned with guilt as I tried to come up with some feeble excuse, but the words caught in my throat like a noose tightening around my neck. Then came the explosion, the torrent of words, sharp as knives, lashing out at me with a force that left me reeling. She didn't hold back, letting me have it with both barrels, every lie, every deception laid bare for all to see. And I couldn't do anything but stand there, taking it all like a punching bag. I watched as tears welled up in her eyes, her voice cracking with emotion as she struggled to make sense of it all. It was like watching someone I loved being torn apart from the inside out, and knowing that I was the one responsible for causing that pain made it all the more unbearable. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to tell her that I was sorry, but the words caught in my throat like a lump of coal. What could I possibly say to make things right again? How could I undo the damage I had done? The silence that followed was deafening, stretching out between us like an unbridgeable chasm. I could feel the weight of her gaze bearing down on me, heavy with disappointment and disbelief, and in that moment, I knew that things would never be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and still the rift between us remained. Every attempt at reconciliation seemed to only drive us further apart, like ships passing in the night. I could see the pain etched into her every movement, hear it in the way her voice trembled whenever she spoke to me. I wanted to make things right, to prove to her that I could change, that I could be the man she deserved, but no matter how hard I tried, it never seemed to be enough. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving nothing but a hollow emptiness in its wake. And so, I found myself trapped in a never-ending cycle of guilt and remorse, haunted by the memory of her tears and the sound of her voice breaking as she uttered those words that cut me to the core. How could I have been so blind, so selfish, to jeopardize everything we had built together? I wish I could turn back the clock, to undo the mistakes of the past and start afresh. But life doesn't work that way, and all I can do now is live with the consequences of my actions. Eventually, the strain became too much. The day my wife told me she wanted a divorce was a day I'll never forget. It was a moment filled with a profound sense of loss, not just for the partnership we had, but for the future we had envisioned together. In the aftermath, I tried to maintain some connection with her family, particularly her brother, who had tried to support us both. But over time, even that connection faded, leaving me more isolated than ever. Friends and family gradually distanced themselves, a response to the ongoing turmoil and additional revelations that came to light. In their eyes, and perhaps rightfully so, I had become a pariah. The year that followed was one of deep reflection and struggle. I grappled with the consequences of my actions and the reality of my situation. I checked myself into rehab, determined to reclaim my life and rebuild what I had destroyed. The first few days were the hardest. Detoxing was hell, both physically and mentally. Every fiber of my being screamed for a fix, but I refused to give in. The counselors and therapists at the facility became my lifeline, guiding me through the darkest moments with compassion and understanding. Group therapy sessions forced me to confront the demons I had been running from for so long. I shared my story with strangers who quickly became confidants, realizing that I wasn't alone in my struggles. Together, we leaned on each other for support, finding strength in our shared experiences. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see glimpses of the man I used to be, the man Sarah fell in love with. Clear-headed and focused, I tackled each challenge head-on, determined to emerge from this ordeal a better version of myself. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had anticipated. Jobs came and went, and I found myself barely scraping by, a stark contrast to the stability I once took for granted. It was a low point, both personally and professionally, one that forced me to confront the changes I needed to make in my life. Amid this turmoil, there were glimmers of hope. I managed to invest in property. Investing in property was a turning point for me. It felt like finally gaining solid ground after years of uncertainty. The process wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted if I could pull it off. But with determination and perseverance, I made it happen. Owning property provided a sense of stability and security that I had longed for. It was a tangible asset, something I could hold on to and build upon. Watching the value of the property grow over time was incredibly satisfying, knowing that I had made a smart investment for my future and for my family. But beyond the financial benefits, owning property gave me a sense of pride and accomplishment. It was a symbol of how far I had come from the depths of addiction, proof that I was capable of building a better life for myself and my loved ones. A new companion, a little pup named Archie, brought a sense of comfort and purpose to my days. Therapy became a beacon of light, offering insights and coping mechanisms that slowly helped me navigate the complexities of my situation. After everything gradually stabilized, I found myself facing unexpected health issues. Headaches became a daily occurrence, a constant throb in the background of my life. Riding the elevator triggered dizzy spells, leaving me disoriented and unsteady on my feet. Concentrating for too long brought on pounding headaches, as if my brain was protesting the effort. Even driving became a challenge, with persistent ringing in my ears adding to the discomfort. At first, I brushed off these symptoms as mere inconveniences, attributing them to the stress I had endured and my erratic eating habits. I convinced myself that I was simply feeling weak, a side effect of everything I had been through. But as the days turned into weeks and the symptoms persisted, I began to worry. However, because I was too busy, I did not make an appointment to see a doctor. The revelation came like a thief in the night, unexpected and life-altering. It was during a routine business trip, one of many I'd taken in the recent months as I tried to rebuild the semblance of a normal life, that the world as I knew it came crashing down. One minute I was navigating through the bustling airport. The next I was on the ground, consciousness slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. Waking up in the hospital was a disorienting experience. The sterile white of the room, the beep of machines monitoring my vitals, and the concerned faces of medical staff hovering over me. It was a stark contrast to the life of constant movement I had been leading. The confusion was palpable, the fear a silent companion as I tried to piece together what had happened. The journey to diagnosis was fraught with uncertainty. Initial tests were inconclusive, leading to more questions than answers. My medical history, a tapestry of misdiagnosis and treatments for mental health issues, painted a complex picture that puzzled the medical team. Yet, it was the insistence of a keen-eyed doctor who noticed the peculiarities in my symptoms and history that led to the decisive MRI scan. The scan revealed the unexpected culprit: a brain tumor nestled in a part of my brain where it had been orchestrating the chaos in my life from the shadows. The moment of revelation was surreal. Sitting in the dimly lit office, the images of my brain displayed on the screen, I listened as the doctor explained the nature of the tumor. It was benign, they believed, but its location had been impacting my behavior and mental health in profound ways. The words brain tumor echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the previous labels I had been given. My initial reaction was one of shock, quickly followed by a flood of relief. For years, I had been a prisoner in my own body, my mind a battlefield of paranoia, erratic behavior, and unexplainable emotions. To have an explanation, a tangible cause for the turmoil, was a liberation I hadn't expected. It was as if the pieces of a puzzle had suddenly clicked into place, offering a clarity I had been seeking for so long. My mind wandered to my ex-wife, to the life we had shared, and to the dreams we had for the future. Could the unraveling of our marriage have been avoided if this diagnosis had come sooner? The thought was haunting, a bitter reminder of the fragility of life and the impact of what lies hidden within us. In the immediate aftermath of my diagnosis, a flood of emotions and thoughts besieged me. There was an undeniable urge to share this significant discovery with my ex-wife and her brother, not for the sake of rekindling lost connections, but to offer them an explanation, an insight into the chaos that had dismantled the life we once cherished together. Yet, as I dwelled on this impulse, the complexities of such an action became increasingly apparent. The pain, confusion, and upheaval that my behavior had inflicted were not wounds easily healed, and my reemergence, regardless of the intentions behind it, risked reopening scars that had perhaps begun to mend. The bond my ex-wife and I shared was once unbreakable, forged in the fires of shared dreams, laughter, and love. Her brother, too, was not just a sibling by marriage, but a friend, a confidant. The dissolution of our marriage wasn't merely a legal separation. It was the crumbling of a shared existence that had intertwined deeply with our families, friendships, and sense of self. The decision to divorce, while devastating, was a necessary measure she felt compelled to take for her well-being, and painfully, I couldn't dispute her reasons. Our paths had diverged, irrevocably altered by the storm that had swept through our lives. In the wake of the divorce, the silence between us grew, a chasm widened by lost trust and hurtful actions. The initial attempts to maintain a connection, to reach out through messages and emails, soon gave way to the realization that such efforts were met with silence, not out of malice, but a need for closure and healing. Mutual friends, too, found themselves caught in the aftermath, eventually stepping back as the complexity of our situation made it difficult to navigate the waters of allegiance and support. Yet, the shadow of my past, the what-ifs, and the realizations brought about by my diagnosis lingered. Update. After everything that happened, I decided not to reach out to my ex-wife and her brother. Many suggested I should try to reconnect, offering various methods to ensure the message would reach her, from social media posts designed to indirectly inform her to direct messages delivered through mutual friends. Each suggestion was made with good intentions. Yet, despite the appeal of these ideas and my initial inclination to follow through, I've opted for a different path. Social media, for one, doesn't hold the same presence in my life as it does for others. My online footprint is minimal, with an Instagram account for my dog, Archie, and a practically dormant Facebook profile. The idea of using these platforms to reach out indirectly felt both impractical and somewhat impersonal given the gravity of the situation. But beyond the logistical hurdles lies a deeper consideration. What impact would my reaching out have on my ex-wife? Would it truly be for her benefit, or would it be a selfish act on my part, driven by my own desires and regrets? The more I pondered this, the clearer it became that initiating contact might not be in her best interest. She's a strong, resilient person, and I have no doubt that she's built a fulfilling life for herself since we parted ways. To re-enter her life now, especially with such significant news, could potentially cause unnecessary pain and confusion. This realization forced me to confront my own motivations. A part of me had harbored hopes for reconciliation, for a fairy tale ending where everything was forgiven and we could start anew. However, such fantasies overlook the real and profound reasons for our separation. The issues that led to our divorce weren't just fleeting challenges. They were significant, life-altering problems that required more than just a hopeful reunion to resolve. Reflecting on our shared past, I'm filled with a sense of nostalgia and affection. Our relationship was rich with shared experiences and memories, from competitive board games to shared adventures. Each moment a testament to the depth of our connection. I cherish those times, from the silly questions we asked each other to the roles we played in each other's lives, including the Dungeons and Dragons campaigns that brought us so much joy. Her presence in my life, her thoughts, and her companionship are deeply missed. Yet, despite this longing, I understand that moving forward is essential. My recent diagnosis and the revelations that came with it have provided a new perspective on my past actions and the future. It's clear that my journey from here must be one of personal growth and accountability. The upcoming surgery represents not just a step towards physical recovery, but also a metaphorical step towards healing and understanding. Alongside my journey to recovery, I've had to come to terms with the fact that my ex-wife has moved on and found a new partner. It wasn't easy to swallow at first, seeing her with someone else, building a life that didn't include me. But I've learned to accept it, to let go of the past, and focus on my own healing. I'll admit there were moments when jealousy and resentment threatened to consume me. I wondered why I wasn't enough, why our marriage had fallen apart. But dwelling on those thoughts only dragged me back into the darkness I fought so hard to escape. Instead, I chose to focus on the present, on rebuilding myself from the ground up. I poured my energy into my recovery, into finding stability and purpose in my life once again. And slowly but surely I started to see progress. With each passing day of sobriety, I regained a sense of clarity and strength I thought I had lost forever. I rediscovered hobbies and passions I had long neglected, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life once more. And as I began to heal, I realized that my ex-wife's happiness no longer held power over me. I won't lie and say it was easy. There were moments of doubt and despair, times when I questioned whether I would ever truly be okay. But through it all, I held on to the belief that I was strong enough to overcome anything life threw my way. And you know what? I may not have all the answers, and I may still stumble from time to time, but I'm learning to embrace the journey, to find beauty in the brokenness. So, to my ex-wife, if you ever happen to read this, I want you to know that I'm okay. I found peace within myself, and I hold no ill will towards you or your new partner. I hope you're happy, truly happy, because that's all I ever wanted for you. I never said it before because I didn't want to burden you with my struggles, but I want you to know that I love you. I always have and I always will. And even though our paths have diverged, I'll always cherish the memories we shared. As for me, I'm looking forward to the future with a newfound sense of hope and optimism. Whether or not I ever fully conquer this disease, I refuse to let it define me. I choose to live each day to the fullest, to find happiness in the small moments, and to love fiercely, just as I always have. In the meantime, life continues to move at a relentless pace. Job opportunities have arisen, presenting new challenges and decisions, and my recent property purchase adds another layer of complexity to my situation. Each of these developments, while stressful, also brings a sense of purpose and progress. As I navigate this busy period, I find myself feeling optimistic for the first time in years. The prospect of what lies ahead, though uncertain, is invigorating. My focus now is on healing, both physically and emotionally, and on the growth that I hope will follow. The path ahead is unclear, but I'm ready to face it with a renewed sense of hope and determination. My story, with its twists and turns, may not have the resolution that some were hoping for. Yet, it's a narrative that's still being written, with lessons learned and more yet to be discovered. For now, I'm content to take things one day at a time, appreciating the progress I've made and the potential for what's yet to come. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Wife made me cut off all of my female friends when I told her that her best friend kissed me while drunk, but I just found out her friend did it because my wife was bragging about controlling me. I have been married to my wife for 2 years. She and her best friend has been friends for more than 15 years, way before I met my wife or her. In TBH, I never saw or noticed ever that my wife's friend has something for me. Her friend and I have been alone quite often, and not once did she try to make a move. It has always been platonic. Her friend, I will call her Lynn for obvious reasons. Lynn and I have been close, not that close, but close enough to consider each other as friends, and I didn't have a problem with it. Neither did my wife. Lynn visits us almost every week or twice a month, give or take. My wife doesn't drink, but I do and Lynn does. So whenever she visits us, we both drink and spend time together. Sometimes she brings her boyfriend, sometimes she comes alone. But 2 days ago, Lynn showed up at our home drunk. She was so drunk. She couldn't even walk properly. I still am surprised how she drove herself to our place. I asked her to come inside and she was crying so much I thought something bad happened to her. I tried to comfort her, but she just hugged me and kept saying that she wished she could find a man like me and all of her boyfriends dumped her and kept talking gibberish. I just stood still and let her vent, but suddenly she started kissing me and I was shocked for a moment, but I shook her off of me and asked her what that was about. She said she was sorry and I asked her to stay away. She kept crying and apologizing, but I asked her to stay away. After a lot of talking and her venting, I knew I can't let her drive, so I dropped her off, and when my wife got back, she asked me, why is Lynn's car here? I told her everything except kissing part. Since then, Lynn has been texting me a lot and giving me a lot of explanation and begging me to not to tell my wife, and she will not repeat the same mistake, and she genuinely thinks it was a mistake, or so I think. She keeps saying that if I do tell my wife, she will lose her best friend. I haven't replied to her yet, and I didn't tell my wife either, but I am kind of scared right now. On one hand, I don't want my wife to lose her best if she has made a genuine drunken mistake because she was really drunk, but on the other hand, I shouldn't be hiding stuff from my wife, and if it ever comes out, my wife will probably stop trusting me. I am kind of stuck here. I know she will be hurt, but should I hurt her? It's no affair or sleeping. If she was under the influence, and if we can bury it all up and move and else stay away from each other going forward. Update 1. December 11th, 2024. I decided to tell my wife everything. I thought about it a lot and decided that I should tell her everything instead of hiding it. So after a lot of thinking and finding a way to get past all this, I decided to tell my wife. When I told my wife everything, she was pissed, angry like never before. She asked me why did I hide it from her, why I didn't tell her. I said I was scared. I hoped that I could hide it all, and I didn't want you to lose your lifelong friend over a mistake. But then I realized that if I continue to hide the truth from you, I might end up losing you, and I don't want to lose you. My wife asked me if I ever cheated on her. I said I never cheated and never will. She started crying and said, how can I betray her when she trusted me so much? I hugged her and said I never betrayed her and will never betray her. I am coming clean cause I don't want to lose you. I was as shocked as you are right now when she kissed me. My wife, after she stopped crying, said that I am not allowed to talk to any of her friends and I am to stay away from other women except our family members. My wife also asked me to block Lynn. When I asked her what she will do, she said it's between her and Lynn and I don't have to worry about it. She demanded open phone policy and complete transparency from me. I agreed. She said if I ever try to hide anything from her, no matter what it is, she will leave me. I agreed cause I don't ever want to hide anything from her. I don't know what happened and what both of them talked about, and my wife wouldn't tell me either. All she says is none of my business. She's still super pissed at me, and I try my best to make her happy and ended up doing embarrassing private stuff for her, which I never was and still uncomfortable to do so, but at least my wife is happy. I do not know what else I could have done, but I tried my best and gave it all. I came clean, told her everything, did everything she asked for me, and tried my best to please her. She's still angry, but at least she is with me and isn't leaving me unless I make another stupid-ass mistake. Update 2. December 19th, 2024. This whole situation has drained me emotionally, mentally, and even physically. I posted before and many people insulted me, called me simp, weak, sex slave, etc. But after reading a lot of comments, similar posts, I thought, why is my wife punishing me? Like, what did I do wrong? Yes, I kept it hidden from my wife for a while because I was unsure if I should tell her or not. I didn't really want to break my wife's friendship with her best friend. Also, I didn't really think about it as I was. Many people said that my wife cheating or trying to make me obedient and stuff like that. But after thinking about it a lot and reading all the comments how other women defended me and tried to help me, I decided to talk to my wife's BFF. Like, if random women and men are concerned about me, then why is my wife punishing me? Yesterday, I went to my wife's BFF and asked her to tell me the truth. She said I should talk to my wife since we aren't allowed to talk to each other. I asked her who was stopping us from talking to each other. She said that my wife told her that it was my idea. I was the one who didn't want to talk to her or any of my wife's friends, and that's what my wife told them all. I told her that isn't true at all. My wife was the one who asked me to stay away from you and her friends and other women unless they are family. We kept arguing, but I asked her if my wife has ever cheated on me. She said not that she knows. If I asked her, then why did she kiss me and try to get with me? She said that my wife has always been insecure and bragging about me. She doesn't want any woman near me and she wants me all to herself, and she said my wife is jealous. She said she wanted to try to be with me because she fell in love with me instead of my controlling wife because she doesn't deserve me. I said if you really loved me, you would have told me the truth. Instead, you let me believe that I was in the wrong and I tried to do everything for my wife. You all are crazy, and I left. I told my wife everything, and in her defense, she said she did all this for my sake and just wanted me all to herself, and I would be foolish to leave her. Instead, I should be glad that I have a woman like her as my wife. I said in normal circumstances I would agree, but I think you just want to control me. I loved you and thought of you as my everything and did everything for you, but you and your best friend is crazy and I don't want any of you in my life. Since then, my wife is calling and texting me relentlessly. I just sent her a text stating that I am divorcing and hiring a lawyer. It's one thing to be dedicated to your spouse, but being controlled by them is not good. So yeah, I am leaving her and her friends and all this crazy. Don't really want to leave my wife, but I must. It's not as dramatic as she cheated on me or both of them planned, but she's definitely trying to dominate me. If it was in bed, I wouldn't mind, but I don't want to live rest of my life with someone who controls me. If other men and women are reading this, please don't blindly trust your partner and always be vigilant. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.